是这样的，我们原野杯组委会下设两大媒体阵营。这个媒体阵营的话，一块是建筑板，一块是国际设计板块，一块是风景园林板块。国际设计板块下辖国际设计网以及国际设计杂志，以及国际设计师公众号和今日头条号。基于原野杯是成立于2010年，面向国内外建筑规划、景观、环艺等设计专业高校和企业展开的一项国际竞赛。我们始终坚持公平、公开、公正的评选原则，每年都会邀请国内外的知名专家教授、顶级设计大师以及地产设计工业企业高管共同组成评委会。评委会下设评审主席团以及评审委员会。经过3轮的一个专业评审后，进入复审的环节，最终经过严格的评分后，评出各级的获奖作品，并向社会进行公示。经过11年的发展，原野杯国际竞赛已经成为了参与面最广、参赛量最多、规模最大的国际赛事之一。第11届原野杯国际竞赛一共吸引20多个国家和地区参与，其中专业奖项有500多个企业，近1000件作品参赛；大学生奖项有431所高校，8000余名学生参赛。国际建筑奖于2019年正式开始设立，它是由一个自发的国际性组织逐渐的开始参赛的一个奖项。经过去年的一个评审，我们共推出了10几位的一个优秀的一个设计作品以及大师，其中获得第11届原野杯国际建筑奖的有来自南非的 Frank Papas 以及 OMA 国际设计机构，还有5从1设计事务所。以上是他们的一个获奖作品。对，这是我们一部分的一个专业的一个评审的一个评审委员会主席，对，评审委员会评审。然后呢，获奖的作品会在国际设计的杂志来发表，以及获得获奖证书。除进行原野杯国际赛事、国际竞赛以外，我们原野杯还举办了陆续的一些活动以及国际竞赛、国际项目竞赛。其中每年一届的健康人居论坛和原野高分论坛，都会吸引大量的专业人士来参与。这是于3月份刚刚结束的原野高分论坛上的现场的情况，大约有1000位嘉宾来参与此次盛会，其中包括清华大学建筑学院院长张力教授、东南大学建筑学院院长张彤教授以及同济大学建筑与规划学院院长李祥宁院长。然后除这些专业人士之外，我们也请到了像佐佐木叶儿这样的国际著名的景观大师，还有来自斯蒂文霍尔建筑事务所的 Robert Banuer 先生，以及知名的建筑师庄子玉先生。这一次的话，因为疫情的缘故，我们在线上的话，同时还请到了5从1先生以及藤本壮介先生，还有Minu Kachola 先生来共同在线上对我们展示了他们的一些设计理念以及作品。这是当时的一个开幕盛况，以及获得国际建筑金奖的欧博麦亚工程咨询公司，他们的获奖作品是长江口中华群自然保护区基地项目。然后2021年的健康人居与未来城市国际论坛上，也吸引到了也得到了陕西省政府、省自然资源厅以及曲江新区领导的一个大力支持。除此之外，每年一届的原野高峰论坛上，我们都会请到知名的国际大师进行专项的一个学术报告会。上一届请到了普斯克奖的获得者汤姆梅恩，此次是佐佐木叶二先生，还有中科院的院士。除此之外，在原野杯竞赛组委会举办的一系列国际竞赛项目中，我们还有请到了像户田芳树先生以及国际知名设计机构，为他们带来一些国际项目的一个竞赛的一个组织。其中的话，我们做的西安市幸福林带景观及量化国际竞赛，以及大雁塔 南广场的景观提升都是非常知名的项目。在这里的话，原野杯很希望为国内国外的设计机构架起这座桥梁，然后呢，组织各种的国际竞赛项目，希望大家在参赛的同时，能够真切的参与到一些具体的项目中。在西安大雁塔南广场景观项目执行完后，我们同时又把这个项目带到了国际上予以展示。原野杯作为国内资深的一个媒体资深的一个平台，我们应联合国第10届世界城市论坛组委会的邀请，组团参加了第10届世界城市论坛，在2020年的2月8号。由原野杯组委会推荐，联合国人居署和世界城市论坛组委会层层选拔，一大批优秀的建筑和景观作品被推送参加专项展览，在国际舞台大放异彩。很开心能够给大家介绍这么多，我们也希望更多的国际建筑机构以及其他的设计师能够参与到原野杯的各项的分享活动中。今后原野杯组委会也将举办各种各样的活动以及分享活动，包括我们9月份可能会参与到北京国际设计周的系列活动中，也希望广大的建筑机构以及事务所来报名来参与的我们的各项活动。好的，接下来我们就要把屏幕来交给我们在场的分享的13位设计师。好的，接下来我这边就结束了，有请那个罗先生。对。
Thanks, Mr. Ko, to give us this speech about our company, about our organizations, and now Charles, representing Global Design, YUANYE and the YUANYE Committee, I will give you the introductions about our organization in English. Here we go. The same point. Well, first we work as media. We have two platforms where we put our latest, we ask for designs and we put it on our platforms. The first one is our webpage, is globaldesign.cn, which you may already quite familiar with. The second one, we have also a public account, a WeChat public account, which called 国际设计师 in Chinese is 国际设计师 and in English is global designers. Global designers, we actually follow up quite tight because we publish the designs every Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays 3 times a week. From time to time, we also organize sharing meetings online when we think we collect enough good design works. Just like this one that we're holding. We think it is quite meaningful because if you think it, we bring the different ideas in the same platforms and we share it, and we will do it regularly. We also work as organizers of different events and competitions. The competition name is the YUANYE Awards competition, which has 2 levels. The first level is for students, and the second level is for professionals. It covers different domains like architecture, landscape, urban design, interior design, and lighting. This YUANYE Awards competition has 11 years history, which is relatively quite long, at least in China. Last year, we have asked around 500 enterprises to take part in, and we collect 3,000 works. And here, I will share you some good designs. From last year, you can find pick up the grand prize The first one is House of Big Arts from Funky Papas. The second one is from YUANYE Potato Head Studio. The third one is from YUANYE Architects, Bandana Restaurants. They are all the grand prize winners. Here you can see our jury board. This jury board is comprised of experts in architecture, universities professors, and also chief leaders in their area. We also have Global Design magazine, where we will put the good competition winners project in these magazines for publication. So if you have this demand, you could ask us to do it. Apart from competitions, we also organize events, international forums, where we will ask masters, professors, and the chief designers to come to share their ideas. And it is very interesting because this time before the share meeting, I was asked not one time, two times, but several times, whether our share meetings has a theme. Only speaking, but there is not a theme for a share meeting because it's simply a share meeting. But we do organize forums and other activities where there are themes related to ecosystems, human settlements, international horticulture expeditions, and others. So we will invite you possibly to come next time to give speech in our forums. So this is the YUANYE Summit. You could find that we invite Mr. Wutroniya, Mr. Sofrimoto, and also the others architects like the Ninos Kajulas, who is also one of the commentators today. And also you could find pictures of the open ceremony. Apart of all this, we also hold one-on-one talks, like talk with Peter Hawks and Tom Mayen. Where we also organize open tenders. For example, the Xi'an Xingfu Road streetscape design competition. The winner is from Atkins. We also organize open tender like Xi'an Dayanta South Plaza Improvement Project. And the winner is from Japan, Toda Fukai. And both these two architects finally got the projects. So I think this is so. And thank you for watching this live conference. And today we have 13 architects who will come to share the projects. Now I will pass the microphone to our host today, Mr. Xu Yang. Mr. Xiang, please open the microphone.
Hi, could you help me? Hello, could you help me, everybody?
Hello, so we could hear you.
All right. Thank you for your introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Xu Yang. I'm a founding principal at Hyper City Architecture Office. I'm currently also teaching CAFA in Beijing, Central Academy of Fine Art. Welcome everyone to YUANYE Award International Architecture online seminar for this afternoon. So today we have 13 keynote speakers will share their works on the platform. They are separated into 3 groups. So today's event broadcasting through Xiaoe Tech. Together with me, we also have 3 commentators who will interact with our architects after each group presentation. So let me introduce our three guests for this afternoon. So first one is Ms. Liu Chunyang. She's Associate Director in Obermeyer Shanghai office, winner of Award of Excellence in the 11th YUANYE Award in Architecture. So let's welcome Ms. Liu Chunyang. Our second guest, Mr. Mino Kagula, founder, owner, and chief designer of Mino Kagula Architects, winner of award of honor in the 11th YUANYE Award in Architecture. Welcome, Mino. So our third guest, Mr. Zhou Zhendong, landscape design director in Land Development R&D Center of Hobson. Welcome, Zhou Zhendong. All right, so we can start with this afternoon's presentation. We can start with the first group. The first group we have 4 studios. Studio 27 Architecture, Usual Studio, Mias Architects, and Nordic. So the first presentation will give by Jake Marzov from Studio 27 Architecture. His topic is the AYA. So let's welcome Mr. Jake. Please start. Hello?
Hello, I'm here.
Hello, Jake. You can start.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the introduction. It's a pleasure to speak with you. The questions we put to our firm for this project were, how can we use architecture to help families during the most vulnerable times? And how can we as designers remove the stigma surrounding homeless shelter? We know that there are essentials to living a healthy life. Shelter, nourishment, and access to natural light, just to name a few. At its core, this project focuses on meeting this criteria. The AYA is a new short-term family housing facility in Southwest DC that serves up to 50 families in need of immediate shelter. When the residents of the neighborhood anointed the new short-term family housing facility, the AYA, they were referencing the African symbol for a type of fern. This type of fern represents endurance and resourcefulness. The story of the AYA begins back in 2001, when DC General Hospital was closed and converted into a homeless shelter. It served upwards of 270 families each night. The oversized, rundown facility was continually plagued with security and trauma. In 2015, the mayor of DC pledged to close DC General Hospital and open 8 new smaller facilities toward collectively combat homelessness. Studies have shown that smaller facilities are more easily supported and integrated into a community, allowing residents access to local resources, including stores, healthcare, and schooling without significant travel or income. Each facility would serve no more than 50 families, be equipped with all-inclusive services, 24/7 security, and provide a safe environment for families. In 2018, Studio 27 Architecture was awarded the Award 6 project. The AYA occupies a historically significant location in Ward 6, falling within the original master plan of Washington, D.C., mapped out by the French military engineer Pierre L'Enfant. The site is bordered by Delaware Avenue, one of the original streets of L'Enfant's plan that radiates diagonally from the U.S. Capitol. The relationship and proximity of the site to Capitol played a major role in the development of the building's orientation, program distribution, and captured views. As with any new public housing project, it requires acceptance from its neighbors. Advocating for continuous community engagement to integrating the YUANYE into the Southwest waterfront neighborhood. Before a single line was drawn to paper, we as a design team met with an advisory board of residents to identify the most important aspects of the local context. We heard that the design needed to be compact, so that the existing green space on site was preserved. The viewshed to the Capitol and the lush tree line along Delaware Avenue needed to be protected. The building was not to have a front or a back, so there were no back of house activity concerns. Lastly, the existing health clinic on site that served the local community needed to be incorporated into the new facility. The early input from the community was extremely beneficial because it gave us a set of rules and guidelines to work from. Instead of starting with a blank slate, we had an inherent framework to aid our decision-making. We explored several massing concepts that aimed at meeting the criteria set forth by the advisory team. In addition to these rules established, each option looked at different ways of bringing in natural light while creating generous views to the city. The massing concept that received unanimous approval from the community was a stepped ziggurat form. Each articulated block is a dwelling unit within the building. Each dwelling unit has 2, 3, or 4 beds per room throughout the 50-unit complex. In these images, you can see the preservation of green space on site with the offset of the building at the north from the existing park and the erosion of the western facade from the tree canopies along Delaware Avenue. This movement away from the trees results in a triangular footprint that points directly north towards the Capitol. You will also notice that each level is equipped with a green roof that cascades down the building, connecting it with the ground. In the 4 elevations of the building, you'll notice each facade is distinguishably different. This is intentional. To meet the community's goal of not having a front or back to the building, we treated each elevation equally. The moves on each face of the building directly relate to both the program and exterior environment. At the north, we used mostly glass to give the best views to the Capitol and capture northern light. At the south, we created a dynamic facade that frames the entrance to the clinic and displays the step profile of the western elevation. The calm east elevation is articulated with colorful outdoor play spaces that exist on each residential level. On the left image, you can see the northern facade, comprised of mostly curtain wall. The spaces at the north end are community rooms that serve each floor. They provide a common space for studying and relaxation. On the right is a close-up of the western facade where you can see the corners of each dwelling unit. The glass locations alternate from an interior corner on one floor to an exterior corner on the floors above and below. This undulation creates depth at the exterior and makes the rooms feel larger than they are. Here we are standing in one of the community rooms looking north to the Capitol building. You can see it here through the center casement window. The height of the building grants some of the best views to the city. This room is equipped with a movable partition that runs down the middle of the space, allowing for separate activities. On the southern facades, we elevated the building to tie into the horizontal datum of the adjacent properties. The use of a plinth originated in this area of the city being prone to flooding. Elevating the first floor allowed us to get natural light down into the clinic space that occupies the ground level. We designated an organizing color independent to each floor to foster a sense of community within the YUANYE. At night, you can see these colors shining through. Displayed in the longitudinal and transverse sections here, you can see the clear use of color as an organizer for each floor. The clinic shown at the top left plan occupies the ground level. The administrative and support spaces for the short-term family housing make up the first level, and the dwelling units reside on the 5 remaining levels above. The stepped massing from the 2nd to 7th level required a careful study of unit distribution, as there are fewer units as the building grows in elevation. As mentioned previously, each floor has their own exterior play spaces carved out of the eastern facade. This allows for parents and children to get secure access to the outdoors without having to travel down and out of the building. The outdoor play spaces climb up the east side of the building diagonally from left to right, drawing your eye north in the direction of the Capitol. The playful use of color is reflected through the openings of the exterior wall. At each outdoor play space, we use brick screening to provide shade and wire mesh to provide safety. Each room has a colorful rubberized floor, stucco walls, and a glass partition along the western side that allows for natural light to reach each corridor. Here are a few examples of buildings that make up the fabric of the surrounding neighborhood. We wanted to pull from this context as much as possible so that the aya seamlessly blended into Southwest DC. As you can see, brick and brick screening are highly prevalent throughout this area. In addition to the play areas, we incorporated brick screening for privacy at the first level. Additionally, the colorful buildings throughout the neighborhood speak to the character of the area. These buildings help develop the color palette at the aya. The average child's age within the aya is 3 years old. Within this in mind, we wanted to create a warm, inviting, eco-friendly environment for each new family. In the private dwelling units, we continue the use of bright colors in addition to wood flooring and floor-to-ceiling windows, giving access to abundance of natural light. With this being short-term family housing, the furniture needed to be efficient and sustainable to allow for optimal storage. The beds were elevated to provide either a space for drawers or a roll-out trundle bed for young children. The larger units are equipped with ensuite bathrooms to provide safety and privacy for small families. As previously mentioned, the first floor of the aya is equipped with support services that include a cafeteria where 3 meals a day are served, a conference room, and a computer lab for job training and research. Additionally, there is a medical clinic for the residents, as well as an office suite for casework. In conclusion, we believe that architecture can play a pivotal role in helping people during their most vulnerable times, and that everyone, regardless of the circumstance, deserves an equal level of care. With the combined use of warm materials, bright colors, natural light, and open views, humane living environments can be created for everyone. My name is Jacob Marzoff with Studio 27 Architecture. Thank you for your time. It was an honor to speak with you.
Thank you, Jake. It's a very interesting presentation. I like the zigzag shape. It's perfectly fit into the site and create very diverse public space. It's amazing projects. So let's welcome to the second speaker. The topic is Jinji Hang Boutique Furniture Store. The speaker is Laura Kando from Usual Studios. Laura, you can start.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Good afternoon or good morning. First of all, I would like to thank the organizer for inviting us to participate in this meeting today and to share our experience as a design studio. I will talk very briefly about our studio. We are called Usual Studio. Most of our designers comes from China Art Academy, Chung Kong Yuan, Taiwanese Cheng Kung University, and Spanish Alcalá University. We are trying to build a small group, beautiful, that we hope our design can find the balance between the international and the local levels. These are most of our important projects so far. We are specialized at B&B hotel, but also commercial space. And our projects highly integrate the 3 dimensions: architecture, interior, and landscape, the 3 together at the same time. We've been very lucky that some of our works have been recognized by national and international awards, important awards. These are the 4 main points that we think design it should be this ensemble as we understand it. So the first one would be the place we work, the area, the conditions of the city, of the town we are working. The second are the future users and their needs. The third one would be which kind of project we envision, which is our design vision. And the fourth one would be in which way we achieve this, so which design strategy we follow. So what is design is a very big topic, and it involves a wide range of people with a lot of different opinions. But we can describe it with a common phrase, asking the questions where, why, how, and what kind of design we want to do. So in our process, we usually follow these 3 levels of logic. The logic of creativity, it's about the theme, it's about the concept, the ideas, the brainstorming, how we have to have a story to tell to create a highly identifiable space, which is the hardest part and sometimes overlooked. The second is the logic of design, have a combination between a theme and a format. And so each space has a theme, and we also provide some experience upgrade. And the third one is the logic of the region, how we play with the advantages of the site, how we face the disadvantages, how we interact outdoor with indoor landscape, or how we reflect the culture and the regional style. But let's talk about our project. It is called Jin Qi Han Boutique Furniture Store. It's located in Hangzhou. I wouldn't say it's just a renovation. It's more a transformation, because the picture you see is the existing building. The original was that it was a restaurant that has been abandoned for many years, and we transform it into a aesthetical lifestyle house that can host furniture displays, household decoration, but it also is used as a tea house, a gathering venue, etc. So the site of this project is not far from Sihu, Westlake, and is close to Manchualan Street. So from the front and back yard, the project is separate from this noisy neighborhood. And at the same time, it's enhanced by this beautiful scenery around. And the concept we are following, it's about the Qiannan, which is an artistical conception in Chinese poetry, that it's about this foggy and rainy weather setting. So that's why we follow the Oriental aesthetics for this project. We pay attention how the rain falls on the roof tiles. So this small event phenomenon, we thought it has a strong connection with this Qiannan charm, and that's why we use it and apply it as a central element of our design. So the flooring tiles are extended from the original tile roof to the whole facade. So the new facade is it can be perceived from the inside and the outside space. The facade it's like works as a curtain, and at some points and some part is gently lifted, so the outdoor and the indoor can resonate with each other. And this is the facade image we generate, a half concealed, half hidden facade. And walking through this hall, exhibition hall, it feels like being in nature. This transparent floor-to-ceiling glass, it connects the outdoor landscape with the indoor space. So, and also this translucent facade skin that is composed by these flooring tiles, it filters the light from the southwest, and it also plays a role as in shading. the interior is full of light and shadows, contrast and changing. And this was the intention of the design, that the sunlight and the scenery can blend and gather each other here. And it's enhanced this space, the experience of the space of this lifestyle house. These are some pictures of the second floor. And in the main area of the furniture display, we've used these warm wooden tones that highlight the comfort, the coziness of the space, and that we think is very suitable for this kind of furniture products. And we also use a variety of materials like rattan, logs, dark marble, etc. That also brings a very natural balance and warm feeling and atmosphere. These are some technical drawings, the elevation, the axonometry, floor plan. So with this renovation, this transformation, we hope to give to this old house a new life in terms of functional use, but we also think it's a beneficial practice in the sense of design, traditional space design. And I would like to introduce very quick, because we have other projects that has a lot of common with this one. It's a renovation. This is the first factory in Chongqing, and these two buildings also have been transformed. They also were abandoned for many years. And the place, when we were there, we visited the site, it had a lot of potential. These two buildings face the Yangtze River. And the conception of this project is the wedding dress. So I just wanted to show you some of this project. But basically, we came up with the idea that we can create a theme about the love and the fashion. So as a designer, our task was to design a wedding dress for these two old buildings in order to give them a totally new look, to show them with a totally new look. These are some sketches of the concept, some diagrams, how we generate the design. This is the entrance, which has become one of the most popular Wanhong, Dhaka, or influencer hotspots. There's some 3D printing models, and the lobby, the water yard, and the multi-purpose auditorium. And I think I'm off time, right? So I will be quick. The other areas from this project, and the aerial view from the drone. These are some of the rooms that face the Yangtze River, and the rooftop cafe bar, the infinity pool, and some of the. I would like to have more time to explain this project better. The construction drawings and below. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Laura. It's a very nice presentation. It's very elegant design. I saw some of your work on internet. It's very internet celebrated. So I think it's interesting. I like your approach to use, for me, like unusual way to achieve a usual life. Yeah, maybe we can discuss later. So let's welcome to the third presenter. The topic is Butterfly House, the single house in Baslu. The speaker is Marina Pavadona from Mias Architects. Welcome. Marina?
Thank you. Can you listen to me fine?
Yes, perfect.
Yeah, perfect. So I'm sharing the screen. Okay. Perfect. So, hi everybody. Good afternoon and good morning here. And thanks, of course, to the organizer for organizing this. I'm going to be talking about the Butterfly House, which is a small project. But first of all, I would like just to introduce super quickly the studio, Mia's Architects. Mia's Architects is right now being exhibited at the Pompidou Museum in Paris. Like our projects, I think that 20 of the projects of the studio are nowadays exhibited at Pompidou Museum in Paris. So I just wanted to start the talk with this image of the models that are nowadays exhibited there at the museum. The museum has acquired a total of 42 models, 14 sketches, I think, and then 18 engravings that explain many projects from the studio. And all these works are going to be part of the permanent collection of the museum. In fact, I think that you can visit the exhibition until October this year. So the project that we're going to explain today, it's part of this exhibition. That's what I'm starting with this image of the models. So you can see here many models, but the project that we are going to be talking today is just the one that you can find here on the left bottom side of the slide with these three models. This is the Butterfly House. There you can see many other projects, of course. So among these models exhibited at the Pompidou, you can see the model of the Butterfly House, which is the one that I'm going to be talking today. And sorry, something's not going well. Okay, so this is the three models of the Butterfly House. There you can see them. This is if you do a zoom. So we are going to start the explanation about the house with models and drawings, because I think that I love the way in which it makes us think or imagine how is it going to be at the end, and photographs will come at the end of the meeting. So this is the model that you can see. Let's talk about the plot. Let's talk about the conditions and the requirements of the client, and then let's see how the house will end up being. So let's think about the clients first of all. This is the house of two doctors who work in Besalú. Besalú is a small village in Catalonia, very small village in Catalonia. So the two doctors wanted the house to be approximately 200 square meter house. And they work there, they live there, so they were not supposed to be using cars to move around because it was a small village. I'm saying this because it has something to do with the whole project, no? So, and also I'm mentioning the clients because their requirements were very important for the development of the project, of course. So this is the plot of the project. This you can see on the drawing. There is the street access, which is going to be on top of the image. And then the village is also on top of the image. Let's say that the access, the street, and the small village. And then we have the plot. And then, as you can see, the terrain slope was steep. And I must also say that there's a river located just here on the bottom of the image. So it was quite a difficult plot to start with, and then we got another surprise. Our surprise came when the two doctors, established their one and only requirement, which was they wanted a one-floor house, just one level. So that was very difficult because of the terrain slope. It was totally it seemed to be completely impossible, no? So the thing is that they had the river on the bottom of the plot, then they have the street access, and they just wanted one floor. So how could we do that? Also with such slope, and also we knew that there was something that we wanted to keep, which was the connection with nature, like connecting to the nature, the house, because we had the river, we have the trees, we have a very nice landscape, and they just wanted to have like an easy connection from the street, from the village, and they did they didn't care about being on the ground floor, like connected to the river, connected to the landscape, connected to such a beautiful place. So, in fact, the idea was they didn't want to have a house on the ground. They wanted the house to be flying, in a sense. They wanted the house to fly, in fact. So that's why we started with this idea, with the sketches, which are actually currently exhibited at Pompidou, because they are like the initial sketches for a new house. So the idea was, okay, let's start the house here with the street on top of the image, let's say, and then we want to face nature, in a sense, even if we know that we cannot put the house on the ground directly, because they don't want to have suffer and have escape and this kind of design. So we took an important decision, which was let's start the house from the windows. And why was that decision made? Because we decided that if they didn't want it to be in connection with nature, the connection would be visual. So they will have all the connection with nature visually through the windows. So our condition was, okay, just one floor, but then starting the house with the windows, by the windows. So where are the windows? Windows would be here, and that's the terrain slope, and windows, those are some of the models that we were developing. So windows are here connected to the to nature, like looking at the river, and then the access would be on the left side of this slide, let's say. So they would access from the street. They would have the house like flying over the terrain, and then they would see the nature through the windows. So the whole idea of the project was, okay, they want the access to be there, but we are going to start with the windows. And then we will go back to searching for the access, searching for the street. So we started the house from the windows, from the views that we wanted to preserve, framing the landscape as the main condition. For the distribution of the house, we decided that the day area would face south, which is the river and nature, of course, and then the night area would face north and the access and the village and so on. If you take a look at this plan, the north side would be on the left, and then the south and the river and the landscape would be on the right. So the day area is facing nature and the river, and then the night area, it's facing the street, the village, and so on, even if it's it's a calm place. So again, we started the house from the windows, and then we went back searching for the access and the street. It's funny because it's not a house that started from the roof, it's a house that started from the windows. That's something that we were always talking about. So again, this was the way that we could be elevated from the river and separated from the terrain, from the ground, having just one floor, which was by the way the main condition, but at the same time we could be in a sense connected visually to nature. So that made that, as you see, the house is totally divided in a day area, which is here on the right side, then the day area, the night area, both are connected through a corridor, which is this one, if this can be named corridor, and there are rooms, suites, and toilets on both sides. And then the north area is again connected to the north, and the south area is connected to the south. Okay, and the question is, what can we find on the ground floor? So on the ground floor, we can find the garage, which is here, and then which is next to the river, let's say, and then we can find the visiting room for visitors, so for friends who are coming and so on. But they were not supposed to be using that much, this area. And also I was mentioning that the doctors work in Besalú and lived in Besalú, so they weren't supposed to be taking the cars as much as, for example, we do. So it was not a problem to have the garage on the ground floor, and the house was still supposed to be a one-level house. So we were like accomplishing the requirements of the client in a sense. This, at the same time, let's see it through models. This condition of the one-floor house had to follow a logical structure, which was made of pillars. So this kind of models, and here you can see the house, the way in which it searches the street and the village, and then it opens and flies over the terrain, just to be visually connected with the river, even if it's not like literally connected with nature, with the ground. Of course, this structure, this science structure, needed to be made with pillars, but it's true, it has like a mixed structure. Structural walls are used as well as reinforced concrete and steel pillars, and both of them were necessary.
Marina, 2 minutes. 2 minutes? You have 2 minutes to finish this talk. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. No, I'm just finishing. Okay, so we used this mixed structure, and this way we could get a better terrain adaptation because it was achieved with the smaller, like let's say, topographical impact and the maximum sunlight in the day area. And however, of course, we did not want to ignore the ground level. I'm finishing with this. So we opened 3 patios that you are going to be seeing right now with these images. We opened 3 patios inside the main floor, the first floor, letting the light illuminate the ground floor. This way, we got 2 things. We got uniform natural light all around the main floor, which is certainly weird. There is no light contrast in the house. And then we got another thing, which was the ground floor nowadays is used for dinners, meetings, and so on, since it is shadowy, actually, but it also gets natural light from the main floor patios. So that's the whole idea of the house. And here you can see the windows that open up to nature, even if it's only 1 floor. So it seems to be not connected like literally to the ground, but it is connected visually in this case. Thank you so much for your time. And it was a pleasure to speak about such different projects.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for Marina for your presentation. I think it's a very good example to read how architecture, how structure, material space organization work together to interact with the environment. It's very sophisticated work. Thank you. So let's move on for the 4th presentation. The presenter will be Thomas Fagners from Nordic. Welcome, Thomas. A very nice environment.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks to Marina for... Yes, this is my home office during the pandemic. Out in nature, very important. Thanks to Marina for the nice presentation. I will share my screen. Here. I know. Okay, are you seeing the screen now as full screen or the talkie presentation?
No, still on the river.
So you cannot see my screen?
Not yet.
Okay. In here? Okay. Can you see it now?
Yes, here we go.
Okay. I need to... I'm sorry, technical issues. I'm not sure why you're not seeing this as a slideshow. Okay, so I'm sorry. Yeah, I tried to do that. So I'll do it like this to stop wasting time.
You can click on the bottom right. Yeah, this one. Slideshow. You click this icon.
Yeah, I'm doing that. It doesn't do anything for some reason. So if you're fine with viewing it like this.
I think it's not bad. Okay, let's go ahead.
Okay, sorry for this. Thanks for the invitation to present here. It's a very interesting lineup of projects. I'm Thomas Fagernes, and I'm from Nordic Office of Architecture. We are one of the largest firms in Norway, and we are a practice with about 250 designers. And we do a lot of sort of large-scale projects, both in Norway and around the world. And that's from aviation to health to residential to commercial projects, and a little bit of cultural projects. So what I'm going to present today is a small competition we did 2 years ago for a museum in Seoul. We also do projects in China, actually, since this is a Chinese venue. So we are involved in several projects in aviation and healthcare and culture. And we actually finished a building in China a bit more than a year ago in Nanchang, which I hope we can present in another session. So for this session, MOPAS, that was the Museum of Photographic Art in Seoul, that we did together with Sangji, Lichtvision, who were our lighting designers, and Abstract Drawing Center. So Abstract Drawing Center, they're a Swedish small brand agency that we work with a lot. They work sort of in the crossing point of design and architecture. The task in Seoul was to do a building in an area, a new area, which had a lot of things going on. So there was a new stadium, there was a museum for robotics, and several big incubator outfits. So a lot of architectural expressions in a greenfield site. So our initial thoughts were, should we compete with these buildings through shape, or should we do something else? And that was our initial conceptual start of this, that we should not work with form here. We should work with light. Since this is a museum for photography, then it is a story about light. So what you see at the bottom here is a diagram of our building, a conceptual diagram, where we have a building, of course, because there's a lot of program to go in here. But we enshroud our volumes with this filter in an attempt to blur the building out, to sort of take it out of the context. And this became our initial way of working with this building. So we made vocabulary, which is directly connected to light. And we have expressions like contrast, reflection, blur. Blur became very important while we worked with this competition. And also the idea of a filter. And these are some early references and sketches, digital sketches, investigating how we can use light in various ways to obscure built form. And we also did the models. So this is one of several. This is the spaghetti model test. Looking at how we could create an envelope for the building, which was blurred and filtered. Working with light and with Lichtvision, we had the focus then on what this building will become at night, how our filter at daytime, which was there to obscure the building, at nighttime could take on life. So a building that really represented itself at night through light. So these are some of the elements that we are working with in the building. The building itself, you see it in this little diagram on the left here. It has a veil around it of vertical columns, like a forest of columns. In those columns, we had three-dimensional video screens, which you see on the first little image here. And we have larger LED screens on the facade behind. And then, as a central feature in the building, we have a funnel of light that draws you from the ground level up in the building. So that's sort of the very technological part of it. Conceptually, this building is also a story of the intensity of light. So it's a building that we enter at the ground floor with little light, and it's also a part of the exhibition that belongs to the early stage of photographic art. So at the ground floor, we were working with, or we were suggesting to curate early age photography, black and whites. And as we move up, the intensity of the light, and that is coming through our central funnel, not sure if this is clear to you, I hope it will be later, it gets brighter, but then also the rhythm of the exhibition has become brighter. Because the second floor, that's exhibitions for new digital art. So the intensity of light goes up, the intensity of color and movement, etc. And then when we get to the top, the light is quite intense from this central funnel, and that's where we have the making part of the museum. So we have an educational program with studios, etc. on top. So what we're seeing here is a sketch of the building as it turned out. We see then the programmatic part sort of inside this blurred volume of, I think it was 2,500 slim columns. And this is a more developed rendering. We approach this building, we see the ground floor plan here, where the building sort of draws back, and this forest of slender columns, they form the entrance. So you filter in through these into the building. And then you move up through this central funnel to the digital display floors, and then to the educational part on the top. Me? Yeah, so here is the ground floor plan. Where that funnel on the ground floor was an external space which connected this museum to the museum next door, which is this museum for robotics. And here we have an image of the entrance where we see the funnel coming down with the stair wrapping up around it. And right behind here we have the first gallery, so that's our black and white gallery on the ground floor, the low intensity of light gallery. And as we get up on the second and third floor, we reach the digital content library, so intensity of light goes up and the intensity of the expression of the medium goes up. And here we're on the top. It's light, it's bright, and these are student exhibitions and study halls, studios, and also a library dedicated to medium. And an image of this central tunnel here, where Lichtvision also developed sort of an inbuilt screen in the glazing, the inside of this tunnel. And finally, this is our vision of this building at night, actually lit up by the columns and this three-dimensional screen by the entrance. That was my last slide. I'm not sure if I've overrun my time.
Yeah, it's perfect. Thank you for your sharing. I think it's very good work to study, how the building works, like a mediator between the city and the people. How actually architecture become more like a device-like, not purely like a building itself. Is this building going to be built in Korea, or is only the proposal?
Yeah, unfortunately, we did not win. But of course, we'd love to realize this building somewhere.
So
that's another win in the competition.
Maybe in future you can bring this idea to China to find a place to implement. It's good opportunity.
More than happy to.
All right, thank you very much. So we just finished our first group presentation. So now we move to our interactive discussion. Then we can also welcome our guest commentators. Maybe first we can welcome Lucy Liu. Lucy, are you there?
Yes, I am here. Hi.
Hi, Lucy.
Yeah,
maybe we can start from you to give some comments or questions. Or it's time for you.
Okay, great. It's my honor to attend this project presentations and be a commentator. And the four works are all very attractive and very good design. And I will shortly to say something about each one and maybe some questions. And first one about the AYA, this project. It's a very reasonable design. Every solution, every result based on a reason. So step by step, it very logically got the result from the plan layout to the facade. And all, gone through, I can see that all gone through common thinking and analysis and reasoning. So, but the final result is full of the changes and interest and quite romantic. So it looks very interesting design. And this is the impression about the first one, AYA. So I have a questions. And the question is that architecture being artworks, never be perfect. And this building is done. So is there any regret do you have when the building is done in real? Yeah, because, art never perfect. You always, by my experience in my career, always when the project done, I always said, okay, some part should be better. And next time I will do better. Always have some regrets. Do you have any regrets about this project?
I don't know if I have regrets per se, but I would say along the way there are things that start to think about maybe a little bit differently, during the construction process, because through the process of design and construction documents, you're kind of in this vacuum world that is not quite realized yet, and then on site you start to see things and perceive things a bit differently. And the one area of the project that I wish maybe we spent a little bit more time on was just the blend of the brick that we use at the exterior. The samples that we started with were, a few bricks that were stacked up only a few feet high, and we felt very comfortable with the tone of the brick at that scale. But then when you see the building at a 7-story structure, I felt like the perception of the brick changed. I wouldn't say that I was displeased with the result, but I do think maybe we could have pushed the texture of the brick a bit more, the blend a bit more, to make it a little bit more harmonious and not as much contrast as the result. That's probably the biggest thing that stood out to me. And then overall, you know, we're always trying to make the building and the section as interesting as possible. For this project, it really forced us to be as compact and efficient as we could be. So there's not a lot of opportunity for double height spaces or overlapping of spaces. Maybe if we had a bit more time or a bit more resources, we could have created some more interest from level to level inside the building. But yeah, those two things are probably the biggest takeaways for me as far as what I learned and what I feel like maybe we could do better on our next project.
Yes, I understand. You know, actually, the buildings is very similar as the design phase, and but you know, usually from the design to the contracted, it's a long term. You know, many things happened and many compromises. So that's my question's meaning. But yeah, I think this is this reality is quite fulfilled very well, I think. And okay, now I come to the second, project. It's Jinjihang, that project. I think this project is a lifestyle showroom, so it's high aesthetic request project. And the designer took a ring on the roof tiles. That's very romantic. A small daily event with a strong Jiangnan charm and applied it to the entire space. And bring the project Eastern charming and mystery. It's very good, the project. I like it very much. And I just curious about the structure, how the structure, take about the tails, the floating tails, because it's quite a lot of weight, but it looks very light. The shape is very, it's quite the curtain is very well, but I'm curious just about the structure, what's take this, what the structure works, and drag this floating tails. That's my question.
Well, the structure, is it not it's holding on the wall from the front wall. So I just I maybe should to give you some sketches to explain it better. So maybe I also can ask the engineers to.
Oh, okay.
I cannot telling you now.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think maybe linked by the steel. Maybe I think it's quite soft layer, but yeah, very well. I think this is the difficult part. I think for this project, and very 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 romantic design. I think, and that's my questions because I understand very well, and your presentation state very clearly about this design. I like it. Just a little curious, and yeah. Okay, lately I will realize how it works. Okay. Thank you very much. And the third one is the butterfly house. And this project forming process shows as a methodology of the design. During the design generative process, you can see architecture is like alive, It absorbs the nutrients from the nature and takes the shape gradually. So that means if you give the architecture design or concept, and the condition, then the result is gradually step by step formed. So this is very interesting. And Mia's architecture serves as a sample, especially to show how to design to the youth architecture. That's a very good cases to study for the young people, I think, for the young architecture. So my question is that being as a successful architect and professor, do you have any advice to youth architecture? Because we have many young architects after they graduated, even they go through all the exams, but many of them still don't know how to design. And can you give them some advice for the youth?
Marina, we cannot hear you. Could you open your microphone?
Sorry, yeah, now it's okay. Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, now it works. Yeah.
Saying that Josep is a professor, as you say, at Bartlett School, and I'm also a professor here. So we tend to to say students that they should try to develop their ideas, not digitally directly, but through sketches, through models, this way. I know it's like old school, but that's how we do it at our studio. And we also try, of course, there are digital tools. We use we use Rhino Zeros, we use Grasshopper, we use everything. But once the idea is super developed, super clear, and above all the team has a clear idea about what this project should be. And then we go through digital tools, we go through Rhino Zeros, Grasshopper, whatever, Revit, everything. But we all know what we want to get with the final project. That's the advice that I would give to any young student, architect or wherever, architect in process. Because I think that that's what makes our architecture I don't know, innocent or French or something like this, clear design that it's brought to an end in a sense. And also, as you see, that's in our case, of course, it has a lot to do with the structure. So if we wanted to implement this idea, we had to deal with the structure, a very complex one, and I know because it has this kind of pillars which are quite difficult. So we always need good engineers collaborating with us, working together with us, so as to explain them, okay, we want to do this, how can we do this? And if you take a look at other projects of the studio, all of them are very complex structures in order to get the original idea, in a sense, more or less, of course. We cannot get the original idea perfectly built, but we try to. And it always has to do with complex structures. I don't know why. I don't really know why, but I think that it's the easiest way to get what you really wanted at the beginning. That's the advice I would give to any students. I don't know if it's advice or if it makes it more difficult, but that's what we try to do at the studio. And it's also, we make fun with that. It's try to do it.
Okay, thank you very much. Because many of our audience here are students, so that's the reasons I asked the questions for them. Thank you very much. And then now thank you. Now let's talk about the first one. And this project is very interesting. Mopa's design provide a new perspective, using light as a design material, which is a very creative idea, and puts forward the concept of filter, which refresh the usual ways of architecture to create a space by objective entity. The boundary can be fluid and fuzzy. The interaction between the indoor and outdoor is not binary, but pluralistic. Yeah. So that's a very bold and a very fresh idea, and this is interesting. And my question is that this is a very bold and fresh idea to use lighting as a facade material and play around about this lighting. I want to know how do you think when you do this design? How do you think about playing with the light in the days, different time? For example, the morning and the afternoon and the evening. Evening is can be LED. Many ways, it's really dramatic. And I want to know that this building gives the feeling, because you said the lighting is a material for the facade. And this is a museum, outdoor and indoor. It's not so clear, like a solid walls, outdoor. And this is become quite, unclear, outdoor and indoor integration more. So I want to know that how do you think, and what do you want to express from morning to the evening, the building, the facade? That's my questions.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. And that takes me back to working with this competition, because that was a continuous dialogue. How do we work with this building through the 24 hours of the day, both from the outside and the inside? In the daytime, it was very much the natural light that was the narrator of this building. The columns that it's composed of, they're non-structural. So it's a very simple structure of slab and columns for the interior volume. But those thin columns, I think they were 10 centimeters is what we ended up with. They're in polished, matte polished aluminium. So that's a material that takes on the light very interestingly. So through the day, it would reflect the sky, it would reflect what is happening outside on the ground level. And as we move into sort of the dusk hours, when the sun is going down, it slowly transforms into being this live, sort of vibrant structure. And we had the calendar of how it operated sort of through the evening, with an intensity around 8 o'clock, I think it was, when the museum was at its most active for the nighttime exhibitions. And then it sort of started to quiet down into the morning. So that was a very interesting part of the work, and we had a very good dialogue with our lighting designers, and also actually the branding agency had a lot of sort of good input for our workshops for that.
I need to interrupt you due to the schedule, due to the time schedule. I think we need to move to next session. So maybe Mino and Mr. Zhou Zhendong, you can comment on the next session. Okay.
Yes, no problem.
Okay. All right. Okay, so the next for presentation, let's see, we have B Architecting, UPA Architects, and I-29 Architects, and Atelier Author. So the first one, let's welcome speaker Sven Horton from B Architecting. Hello, Sven. You can start. So I just want to maybe a kind of reminder for the following speaker. We need to make sure we can every speaker gonna present within 10 minutes, around 10 minutes. Thank you. Okay. Hi. Sven, we cannot hear you. It's silent. No. No, it's still silent. Oh, I think the device something wrong. No, it's still silent. Could you hear me?
We could hear you. We could hear you. And
okay.
There is a sharing button.
Okay, now it's okay. I can hear you. Okay.
Mr. Groten, so could you find the sharing button?
I cannot see your screen. Yes.
Here we go. Here we go.
Yep. Now it works.
Yep. Mr. Guten, there's a second option. So you could use mine. I will share the screen and you speak. I play the slide, okay?
Let's try.
Let's try it.
Now I can only see your face.
Hold on a minute. Okay. Now it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
You could say next. I will play next slide.
Okay, next one. We cannot hear you.
Anthony, there's no problem. You just give a speech. I will follow your step. Okay? Which one is okay?
Yeah, it's okay.
Please give the speech.
We can only see your screen, but we cannot hear you.
No, it's you give the speech, and I play the slide. You could see next slide, I will play the next slide, okay?
So the next one?
We start from here?
Yes. So, next one is Brussels in Belgium. Swing, sorry, you just want to sliding all the slider?
Because I think there's a problem with your PowerPoint, so I will play the slide and you give the speech. Okay? And you just stop. and I'll stop there, and you give the speech.
I can only explain your title, for example, context metro station orbit. I guess this is the site introduction. Is located on the crossing road, the left side and the right corner. Yeah, I try my best. Okay, next one. So the context metro station, we can see the metro station underneath of the main road. The left building and the right building. The right one is trying to create the cantilever structure to release the public space on the ground, and also create a sky deck for the public event. Okay, next one. Yeah, this is the construction concept, to see how the structure, the chassis, steel structure make the cantilever work. The next one. Yeah, now we could see the floor plan, the ground floor, the foyer, number 1, the restaurant, number 2, and kitchen, back storage, and the number 5 is also storage. Okay, the next one. To see another functions, auditorium, office, sanitary, changing room, staff room, storage. Okay, next one. Yeah, the different functions, the second floor. Let's move on. Yeah, on the number 1 is roof terrace. We saw it on the previous slide, and the next one. It's north elevation. We could read how the new building work together with historic building facade. We could read the context from old to the new. Okay, next one. East elevation. Next one. North elevation and west one. Next one. Okay, this is the final image. No, the final photo. We could see the building realized on the site. Okay, next one. Yeah, this one I think is interesting to see how the old building and the new building work together. To see the juxtaposition between the historic and the new intervention. Next one. Yeah, this another side of the crossing road. We could see the cantilever structure, which released more public space for the ground floor. Okay, next one. Yeah, I really like this image showing the diagonal connection between the back road and the crossing road, and this card also creates more public event for the crossing road. Okay, next one. This is the cantilever structure. Next one. This is the image from interior look at the city. We could see how architect trying to bring all the city surroundings or the landscape into the interior space. Okay, next one. The staircase. Next one. Yeah, next one. Yeah, this is the view with very high ceiling. Next one. Also, like this one, like a city window, the surrounding facade made by the semi-transparent glass, the U-shaped glass, and the center one made by transparent glass. So we could see these two different blurry transparency quality. And this window also bring the city landscape into the interior. This is also very nice technique. Okay, next one. This is the roof terrace. Also create a very nice outdoor space for the event. Okay, next one. Yeah, the front entrance. Next one. Yeah, the view from the crossing road. Next one. This area view to see the building, how actually the building activates the crossing road and also release the space to the public event for the public pedestrian, and also could see how the new building work with the historic context. Next one. Yeah, this is the basic information about B Architect based in Antwerp, Belgium. Okay, I think I try my best. Swen, is that okay? Swen, still there? Okay, so let's move to the next speaker, Zhou Chao from UPA Architects. Zhou Chao, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah.
All right, your turn.
Okay.
So you can present by yourself.
Okay.
All right.
Wait a minute. I'll show my window. Good afternoon and good morning, everyone. Thanks for the organizer. My name is Zhou Chao. I'm very glad to speak here. I'm the chief architect of UPA Architects, with the Chinese name YUANYE 建筑事务所. Our studio is in the city of Wuhan, China. Our studio is devoted in the countryside and the city renovations, prefabrications, and cultural architecture design. Today, I'm going to share with you a small building in countryside in Tianjin, which named the hillside house with the Chinese name Qiushanju. Here you see the overview of the hillside house. This is one of the projects we completed in Chinese countryside. This one is in Tianjin, in the north of China. This project is one of the renovation of our design. The house is in the village nearby the Tanshan scenic spot in Tianjin. The environment of the house is very beautiful, and there are many mountains and the surroundings trees in the side. The owner of the house is great devotee of Hao Yuanming. Hao Yuanming is a famous Chinese poet in Jin Dynasty who sought spirit of freedom in the severity of nature. Actually, this is the photo of the old house. Actually, the house has been built in the 1960s and has been rebuilt for 3 times. You know, in Chinese, every generation will rebuild their house. The house is here now. The house is no longer suitable to live in for 2 reasons. One is the house is dilapidated, and the other one is the expressway. The expressway is crossing the street and cause great noise, so it's hardly to live in. This is the picture of the old house. You know, from the left above, this is the expressway. The expressway is no more than 60 meters. And it's a typical northern courtyard with the trees and the flowers the owners planted. The Google Map shows clearly the expressway. The expressway is crossing the villages and the mountains, so the texture of the village is destroyed. So it's a great pity. And this board is the site, it will cause great noise. So I want to talk about several key points of our design. The first one is how to renovate this house. So my answer is growing internally. Why? Why the house should grow internally? Because of such reasons. In Chinese countryside, the regulations and the rules for the renovation is very strict. Although the countryside is developing, but the limit to us is that we should renovate literally, and the house should be only 1 story above. So we just add some corridors and tea house and so on. The diagram shows how we renovate it. In the whole design, I'm still thinking one question. Although the limit is very strict, how can we renovate the house from inside, and how can we coexist the environment very smartly? Because the old house is L-shaped, the new one is still L-shaped, but it's different change. The east-to west volume consists of 3 bedrooms and study rooms. The north to south volume is consisting of the kitchen, the dining room, and storage. Furthermore, we add a corridor, a wide corridor to connect the 2 volumes, which we call the sunroom. The sunroom is very important to the whole life of the residents. And we add a tea room to enlarge the corridor. This is very interesting because it's cantilevered in the swimming in the pool. Now the tea house is growing internally from the room, so we call it growing internally. And this is the view from above the terrace. The second part is the courtyard. There are courtyard in the old house, but we cannot destroy or rebuild the courtyard. I call it just the extension of the building. In this new house, the building and the courtyard wall are a harmonious utility. In the traditional courtyard, the courtyard wall and the building are separated, but now we connected together. This is the front courtyard, and this is the backyard. In the front backyard, we add 3 pools to connect the courtyard. And we add the waterfall from the wall, and the water passes through the 3 pools, and finally hide under the tea house. This is very interesting. In the Chinese poem, we call it the winding river. And in the backyard, we just plant trees. This is the courtyard, and we weave the bricks to make the light and shadows. This is the courtyard, and this is the backyard. Through the connection of the courtyard, we found the circulation will become more funny from the front yard to the backyard and to the roof terrace. The circulation will elongate. So with the beautiful scenery and the light and the shadow, the circulation will become more and more funny, and the scenery will become more colorful. It's the detail of the roof terrace. And then is sound. What I want to emphasize the sound because I mentioned it, there are great noise from the expressway, but our solving is to be quiet and the noise. This is very clear. In this diagram, you can see the expressway is no more than 50 meters from the bedroom. So how can we reduce the noise? We take two measures. One is the plants and the trees to prevent the noise. And the second one is the tea room and the double glazing glass. Furthermore, we add the wood floor. Yeah, I just mentioned before. This is very interesting because the inspiration is from Taiwan. I still remember when I visited the Garden of Fine Arts in Kyoto, the water flow in the sunken garden reduced the bustle and hustle of the cars of the roads. So just try the same strategy in this house. So when the water flow is flowing, the river is flowing, the water is flowing, the man in the tea house can be out under the noise. This is the sunroom. So I think when the owner is in the tea house, he could forget the expressway and the cars. Then construction. Because the old house is constructed by the wood and the brick, we just follow it. But to the sun room, we use the structure of steel. It's just a mixture. The owner invited 70-year-old carpenter to rebuild the timber roof with mortise and tenons. And in the kitchen, we used the industrial Hollywood. With the steel tea house, we make the tea house cantilever over the pool. It just shows the lightness contrast with the wetness. It's a cheap, but it doesn't work. I want to say during the construction, it was the pandemic of the COVID-19. The owner would invited us to have small construction from Wuhan, and the owner participated the whole construction. So this building complete within 5 months. It's a very unforgettable experience. Finally, I want to say the materials. The strategy is recycling and reuse, because of the old materials preserves the motion and the history of the owner. So we just collect it and recycle it, such as the stone foundation, the tiles, the bricks, the wood, and the timber. On one hand, we use it on the building. On the other hand, we use the tiles in the landscape. We use the timbers to make furniture. So you can see you can see the history and the emotion we built in this building. I want to give a brief introduction to the village in mixture. I called it village in mixture. This shows one of the projects we finished in the countryside in recent years. We have a vision that we want to translate the Chinese traditional.
Mr. Zhou, you have 2 minutes.
Okay, I want to translate the Chinese traditional technique to the industrial technique in the outside renovation. So we just want to mix the new and the old. You can see the steel, the plywood, and the bamboo structure into the countryside. This is the project we finished all over the Chinese mainland, such as in Hunan, Beijing, and Nanning. So, which could be a trial of a revival of the Chinese countryside architecture in the future. Okay, our English is not good. Maybe my speech is not clearly. I'm sorry. Thank you for.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you, Zhou Chao. Thank you for sharing. I think it's countryside now is a very hot topic in China. Also, the government proposed countryside revitalization policies in these years. So I really like your idea trying to make a balance between new and old. Try to implement new materials, local materials, recycling materials into the new construction method. Okay, so let's move to the next one. The 7th presentation, Chris Clarice from I20
yes.
Architects. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Yes, I'm Chris Clarice, one of the partners of I29. Let's see if I can share my screen. Let's see. And now you can maybe see the first page of our presentation.
Yes, floating home.
Yes, floating home. This is one of our projects actually of I29. I29 is actually from origin an interior architectural office. But in the last years, I've joined and we've made it into a full equipped interior and architectural office. And this project, Floating Home, is one of the projects which show this collaboration between interior and architecture. And most of the time, we can't say where it started. Did it start at the interior architecture or was it the exterior and the architecture which made this start of the project? This project is actually a very special project to us because it's the first floating home that we've designed, one of the first 2, and it's in the same kind of area. It's called the bigger area. It's called Amsterdam North. It's one of the former industrial areas of Amsterdam, and Amsterdam had to find solutions to get more people into living houses. So what they did is they moved out the industry far more to the west, outside the city, and they started to renovate and transformate this land, but also very special, the water pieces for living. And there was a group of people, just private clients, who came with a plan, went to the council and said, hey, we want to make the most sustainable floating village of Europe. And that was, I think, 9 years ago. So it was a long way to go still. And transformations take a long time. But they succeeded. And they succeeded to make their own dream village. And also not only about the best place to live, but also in a very sustainable way. And not only then the energy sustainable way, but also the social sustainable way or the food sustainable way. So there are much more factors if you want to have a high quality sustainable life. Now you have to think more than only about windmills and electricity. And this sketch also shows a little bit how this floating home is connected to this direct surroundings in a social way, but also in an energy way, all different kind of ways how to live sustainable on the water. And if you want to live on the water, you can choose to build it on the water or you build it on the land. We built two of those floating homes. And one we built on the land, and then after you finish, you put it into the water, and then it's always a big gamble. Is it still floating? Is it going the right way? But this one, the floating home that I'm showing you today, it was such a complex shape and also in terms of balance that we had to build it on the water. It was also the first floating home that our contractor built in his life. So when you build on the water, you can always juggle a little bit around. So you have a design, but you can still improvise if things are not going right as you had thought on the table, on the drawing table. But luckily, we built this whole thing without any balancing problems. But we were quite surprised that there is so much possible with this kind of structures floating on the water, because one of the biggest complexity issues was the shape. We had to make a house, both a home, but then with a pitch roof. But we didn't want it to be such a simple home, a house. And that means that we wanted to make a pitch roof, but then we turned the pitch roof diagonal on the floor plan. And it gave also a very interesting parts on the inside, but on the outside as well, because when you go with your little boat around this house looks always different from every different angle. Here you see it also a little bit with the facades. And the other complexity was that we wanted to give the client much more than he wished for, because we wanted to give them a lot of space and also a big feeling of space. And that meant that we want to connect a lot of spaces together in one piece. But if you're going to do that on a floating structure, you have to keep your balance. So if you make a big hole in the floor on the left side of the floating structure, you have to think about something else on the other end of the floating structure. And this interior and this whole setup of the house is going completely crazy in terms of balance. So it was like a big struggle to get things right, because everything changed every time, every moment. And so also the structure had to change and adapt to this balance method of getting the right balance in the end. Yeah, and what you see here are the pictures of the end situation, of course. Big kitchen and big roof lights. And views to different kind of directions. And the pitch roofs from the areas come back again in the interior. And here you see also like the inside-outside space, which is floating into each other. And also a funny thing is that we directed the views. So this is the view that you get when you sit on the couch in the living. But if you stand, you only get the water view. So every time when you walk or move through this house, you get different kind of views, and you really have to. It's like an adventure to go inside this house. And of course, a lot of terraces where you can jump just right into the water. Because I mean, why do you want to have a floating home? Because you want to be very close to the water, but you also want to be in the water. And this then is the front facade on the west side. And we have as the ending point of this presentation, we have a very short movie about the first batches of houses coming to the jetty. So this was the starting point of putting the boats in position. And the good thing also here is that you see a little bit, when you see the people, you have like a welcome committee. And that's also a very strong thing about this project. It's a very strong group, highly connected to each other and destined to do this. Because if you if you think, oh, we're going to do it, and you think half about doing it, then it's never going to happen. It's only happened because those people were able to go for it. And here you see our floating home coming into position. Because it was built very close to this area, but we were not allowed from the council to build on the site itself. And that was my presentation. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you. It's very brilliant work. I think it's very Dutch way to approach these ideas. For me, Dutch architect always works like an interventor, always working with emergent things and working with extreme conditions. It's very inspiring. Thank you very much. So let's welcome the last one for this group. So the topic is Yingling Stone Nature History Museum. The speaker is Bu Xiaojun and Zhang Jiyuan from Atelier Alter. So welcome. Hello.
Hello, Aaron.
Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you.
It works, right? Okay.
Okay, thank you everyone for listening to our presentation. Let me do a little brief introduction about Xiaojun Bu and myself, Xiyuan Zhang. Xiaojun Bu graduated from Tsinghua University. He got his bachelor and master degree from Tsinghua University, and he also got his Master of Architecture 1 in Harvard University Graduate School of Design. He used to work for SOM, and he set up Atelier Alter Architects with me in 2009. I am Jiyuan Zhang. I graduated from the Cooper Union for my Bachelor of Architecture degree and my Master of Architecture in Urban Design from GSD Harvard. I used to work for Atelier Raymond Abraham, RMGM, North America, and we are all registered architects in New York City. Thank you.
So the story of the architecture starts from 6 years ago. YUANYE Stone Group found us to build a small stone showroom in Beijing. And we were interested in the stone quarry, and they give us a lot of stone mining techniques. So we, inspired by that, we developed a new language of splitting space, and we use the recycled stone, the skin of the mountain, as a architectural material, and that was the final look of the exhibition space. So the stone, the recycled stone, was cut into 10 centimeter blocks and generates new facade. And we use that stone as an interface between the void space and the functional space. And after that, 3 years ago, the upper industry group, YUANYE Stone Group in Xiamen, find us again to build up a museum. So within the communication, they give us more and more information about the industry. So we got more and more interested in that area. So we see a lot of labor. We see the conquering power between human and nature. So that was very primary instinct that driven us, that drove us to move on in the design aspect. So they give us more material like fossils and gems, crystals, and they have a specialist team to dive in the fossil collection. So this is the site. They have a office building which is empty. They want us to renovate the first and second floor as a museum, but keep the 3 and 4 and 5 floor as office. This office building has a very opaque facade that has a huge atrium. So after analysis, we found out that there are 3 main difficulties that we need to conquer, which is the confliction between the public and private space, and also it is lack of natural lighting, and also there's no community space in that building. So we try to develop a new language from the stone dissection.
Yes. Our design depart from the unique architectonic latent within the stone dissection technique during stone mining process. We cut through the remodel space within the method of stone dissection and create a unique stone gallery. The stone industry is about a battle between nature and human measure. Can we go back to the last? Can we go back to the last two? The last slide. This is the Roman Heliopolis and temple site in Lebanon. We can see the juxtaposition of natural stone and the architecture stone, and that's very interesting for us. Next. There's a leverage in the process of stone cutting. We use comparable small tools to cut gigantic stones by finding the weak points in natural stone and help stone to crack naturally. Next. These are the photos from Edward Bertinsky. The amazing scale and tectonic captured in the photo help us to analyze special aesthetics in the quarry. Next. We also found the composite structure in micro level of the crystallines are very similar to the macro scale composite structure in the geotectonic of mountains. Next. So during mining, the mountains are cut from leverage planes vertically and bedding planes horizontally. So we, in trying to figure out a relation between the micro-scale crystal structure and the macro-scale geotectonic structure. Next. The mass of mountain are subtracted or scoping from inside out. This is very interesting for us that natural architecture is created from its very interior, and the exterior becomes a formal expression generated from the process of the interior, rather than the other way around. Next. The rope saw or other splitting techniques always generate slightly cutting surface, which forms a perfect and abstract measure of nature. So the modern and traditional cutting, they all created slightly tilted straight surfaces. Next. So considering the limitation of the site, we found that the skylight atrium to solve the problem we face on the site. We need to find a way to divide the skylight for the museum and the office. So we begin with understanding the underlying structure of the skylight atrium. Boom.
So at the end, we introduced like 3 vertical tapered cylinder into the space. in one way, introduce skylights down below to the first floor as a skylight to contributing to the museum atrium. The outside surface of the cylinder reflect light back to the office space. We thought at that moment that was very clever. That when the confliction between public and private space become problem, that way it can split the two space very functionally. So we confirmed that option and then move on, which also, all the stone cutting technology and tectonic, and also the idea of crystal shape combined into the space, it shaped the space into a crystal looking atrium. So this is a photo that showing how bright that the skylights reflect back to the office space. That's the top part of the space, and this is the bottom part of the cylinder, cylinder. You still can feel the idea of, very primitive feeling of the cave, the crystal cave happening in the space. So that's all the cutting surface start to stirring up the space with all the tilted angled surface. So the floating volume between all the cylinders give the sense of the gravity. And also the huge vertical scale will give a sense of primary cave space. At the end, we use like a bundle of shape of the horizontal crystal volume surrounded the central space as exhibition space. So that's the final look of the interior. That would generate a huge complexity of the exhibition area. Within each one of the cylinder has a one story, which is produced with a client team. So here you can see a clear storyline of the facade. So at the end, all the effort we were trying to do is trying to get inspired by the industrial, which addressing the power of human. We have a very short, like 1 minute animation to show everybody. Okay, that's about it.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Wu Xiaojun and Zhang Ziyuan. It's a very powerful project. We could see how to deal with lighting system and create different experience which related to the stone culture and nature. So after this full presentation, we can have a small interaction with our guest critic. Mino, are you there?
Hello,
yeah.
Hi.
So
Hi there.
Yeah, the discussion we need to control within 10 minutes. Okay.
Yeah, sure. And
all right.
Thanks a lot. First of all, my name is Mino Kajuro Architects from Lugano, Switzerland. Really interesting to see different approach, different architects from all over the world. I think it's really inspiring. I think that diversity is a great value. And first of all, I would like to maybe speak a bit about the Sven Groten architect and this great project, and that is really clear and logic, and it's really nice the intervention that is open to the community, and also really nice this relation, this energy between these two buildings that are like in a way two twins that speak together, and also really nice on the main building, this cantilever that helps to people to stay together and to become a meeting point also for the neighbor, and also this translucency and this transparency into the facade that helps people to understand better how to also enter, how to use the building. And a question, it's like I did not understand in a way how these two buildings, these two twins will dialogue together functionally, because they are really well connected to, it's a great project, really clear, really well connected to the city and to the other architecture historically there from a lot of years, and how these two buildings are functionally connected together. We cannot hear you. We still cannot hear you. Sorry. Not yet. Unfortunately not. Maybe I ask the organizer how to deal.
Mr. Mino, could we please jump to the second comments, and then so we try to fix the line with Mr. Groten, okay? We start from the Mr. Zhou.
Yes. I'm sorry, Sven, about it. I will go through the next, and then I hope I can speak with you later, okay? Thank you really much. So, because of the Hillside House, also a really nice project, I think it's really important to every time deal between old and new in finding a new balance. It's like finding, I can say, tradition in evolution. And the point, and maybe my question, it's maybe more technical, because I don't see other points to the designing process. Also because I heard that there is a really strict intervention from the authority, thanks to don't give that open choices on the planning volumetry of the entire building. And so my question is going on a technical part about the noise. You told us thanks to the greenery, thanks to the trees, and thanks to this double glass that we can use better this whole building, thanks to get against the noise. but my question goes, when you are inside and maybe you open windows to live better the interior design and landscaping, how you feel and how you deal with this kind of relation.
Thanks your question. So I think your question is about the technique of the building, right? Actually,
yes, about the noise.
Actually, the technique we use in the project is very simple. I call it the low technique. You know, the main body of the building is constructed by the wood and the brick we used. So I think it's not too difficult for the workers. Besides the wood roof made of the mortise and tenons is I don't know how to say is the form of the 台梁 wooden structure. I don't know how to translate it. Some of wooden traditional Chinese traditional wooden structure. And
I got it.
Yeah, I always use the light structure in our design, such as the wood, bamboo, and steel, and all of them. So I choose to use the steel to make the sunroom and the cantilever, the sunning room. It also constructed by the local workers. Not very difficult.
I got it. So thank you really much. And really interesting about the floating home. I love Amsterdam, actually. I was there different times. Great country, great people. And I think that all the world will see in the next future, also next to the country where it's full of costs, like Italy or like different borders. And this melting of the pole will see more and more solution in the future of floating houses. We have in mind Venice, that it's a great place with a lot of art, with a lot of architecture, and a lot of great history. And this history, I think, will change in a way. And my question goes to another time, the technical part, because it's really nice the way you designed this house, this home, like it was designed by a child drawing with really simple shape, and then you transform this in a volume. But my question goes not to the architecture, that I think is really nice and really clear, but is that house moving vertically, or thanks to the rising of the water, it's still like in Venice? And how you manage the construction, the cracks into the buildings, and into the buildings, not only yours, but also around? So this is my technical question.
Well, actually, it was a big puzzle to get it like this, but this whole house works as one piece. And the bigger amount of the weight is down below, which makes it very steady. The upper part is as light as possible. And if you do that, because it's not only by going up and down because of the water rising and going down, it's also the wind power. And in Amsterdam, we have that as well. So actually what it does, the house, it is very heavy down below, which makes it very stable. So it's not going like this, but it stays and going up and down. But there are two poles next to the house, which the house is connected to. So it's not floating away because there's too much float. So there's always like a power from outside which is trying to move the ship. But the ship, it's not a ship, of course, it's a floating home, it's a floating structure. It stays in its position. The only thing that it does, it goes up and down because of the rise and going down of the water.
Sounds great. It's really interesting. Really lucky you that you did that crazy project, and unlucky us that maybe we get
I became crazy.
Yeah, I imagine. But I would say unlucky the humanity that will maybe see more and more kind of project like this. So I will go to the last one, and really nice project. And human being used to live in caves millennia ago, and I think that now we live in crazy high technological building, but the meaning of the architecture is always the same. So feel good, be safe, not only physically but also mentally. And my question goes to you guys to understand, what do you think about this kind of way of thinking architecture that is connected to the well-being of human being, not only on that specific project, but also in your future project?
Well, actually, we care more about creating architecture language from architecture from within or architecture from without. It's a question for us about creating a new type of architecture. It's not only inventing architecture from the pre-established perimeter, like architecture structure or architecture spatial logic or the skin or exterior or interior logic and so forth. So we care about the cultural context we face, and we want to have more connection with the cultural context, both in the metaphysical level and in the physical level. So for many of the projects we're dealing with right now, what we show in the presentation is two of our industry projects. Actually, we have an industry museum triptychs for industry museum. We have three kind of industry museum, and one is the arrangement of the previous one. And in this industry triptychs museum, what we are trying to get is to find the kind of cultural influence of industry to the society, and what would industry contribute to the society in terms of culture artifact or cultural influence. So we want to have different kind of disciplines or different, type of programs have more connection with human being. And we would like to have more history and cultural context being picked up by architecture.
Sound great. So against tradition in evolution. So I think that if
shall we try to be the
host will go ahead, yes. So thank you really much.
Thank you, Mino. Thank you all the speakers. I think it's time to move to the last group. So for the last group, we have 5 offices to present their work. They are and raw architecture, I don't know if my pronunciation is okay or not. Jacob McFarlane, Masula, and Fabian Tan, architects and wall makers. So let's welcome the first one, the first speaker, Francisco Ortega from in raw architecture. Hello.
Hello. Good morning. I'm going to try to present to share my screen.
Yeah.
Okay. Ooh, sorry. Can you see my screen?
Yes, but it's very blurry.
Blurry? you see it now? Okay. Thank you very much. Well, ni hao, good morning from Spain, and good evening from Beijing. My name is Francisco Ortega. I'm the chairman and founder of Venedo Arquitectura. And today I'm very glad to present you the new hospital of Cordoba, which is one of the last buildings we have done here in Spain. But first of all, I would like to thank the YUANYE Awards Committee for selecting this project. Thank you very much. To give you a little of background, Venedo Arquitectura is a firm based in Madrid and Barcelona in Spain. We've been working since 2006. We are around 25 people between architects, quantity surveyors, and engineers. And we have designed over 2 million square meters, most of them within the healthcare sector. The Hospital of Cordoba is located in Cordoba, which is a small town in the south of Spain. Even though it's a small town, it's very important because it has a lot. It's the most concentrated archaeological remains of Islamic architecture period in Spain. So it's very touristy and it's a beautiful city. Here. Sorry? Okay. Here, the climate is very extreme, especially in the summer, where the temperature can rise up to 47 degrees Celsius. The building has over 23,000 square meters. It was built with a budget of 23.6 million euros. The client is Quirón Salud, and the works were done between November 2016 and June 2018. That is 20 months of length. It's an acute hospital with 115 rooms, 32 clinics, 7 operating theaters, 11 vascular units, 2 endoscopies, 3 delivery rooms, and 8 rooms of diagnosed by imaging. The property is located in the outset of the city, where we have 2 different frameworks. The most evident one is the modern framework of the city, but there was also another framework, which was the historical footprint in the plot area. Since we find archaeological ruins and remains of a necropolis, we only use 40% of the footprint of the total area, and we also use special foundations to not damage these remains. But we also wanted to pay homage to the Islamic architectural period, so we built this facade of 2 layers, which the outside one was based on the idea of a masarabilla, which is a lattice work typical in the Islamic architecture. These masarabillas not only protect you from the direct sunlight, but also provides privacy inside of the building. So with these 2 parameters, we designed a parametrical design for keeping the direct sunlight out of the building during the whole year, and also preserving the privacy inside of the building. We use these algorithms based on these triangles that go from 0% to 100% opacity, and combining them, we provided the building with shade, but also with a very vibrant facade that help us to give shade, not only in the facade, but also in the main entrance, as you may see in these images. We wanted also to help the wayfinding using, instead of pillars, we used tree-shaped pillars made of steel. And at night, you may see from the inside how the different layer is and let the light come out. The building is divided into volumes. The small one is for outpatients, and the big one is for inpatients. In the intersection between these volumes, we created the main entrance, as you might see in the front part. And we have also created the emergency department entrance, which is in the rear part of the building. So basically, what we have here is offices and clinics, which is our areas for the patients in one side, an emergency department, diagnostic department in the ground floor, operating theaters and ICUs in the first floor. Then we have an empty floor for facilities and services, only for internal use, of course. And then the third floor and the fourth floor are for the wards around a big patio. The flows and the circulations in a hospital have to be very clear, and public circulation and internal circulation should never merge. That is why in the ground floor, once you enter the lobby or the emergency department, to the left you have the all public services, and to the right you have the all internal areas. Most of them or all of them are illuminated either from the facade or from the internal patios. In the first floor, we have the clinics that all the rooms are facing the facade, so you give them direct daylight and also views to the outside. At the right, you may see the operating theaters facing the facade as well, so the patients can have views from the outside and direct sunlight up, as well if it's required. In the third and the fourth floor, we have the rooms, the wards. They are all facing the outside, so we have, even though we keep the privacy with the second layer, they have all views to the outside and direct sunlight. And the internal areas are facing the patio, the big patio, is where we place the staff, nurse, and support units. We also made a modular building based on a framework of 7.2 by 7.2 because we think it's the most efficient concrete framework in terms of costs and speed. So we designed all the units in with this module: rooms, boxes, clinics, endoscopies. All of them were designed within this module. In interior, we wanted to keep as much daylight as possible. That's why we use windows as well as roof lights. But I would like to also to highlight the fact that we use organic material such as wood or stone. We use this structure as an abstraction of trees instead of pillars. And we like to use videos in the public areas to give this welcoming feeling to the patients. In the clinic areas, we use roof lights as well and glass partition walls to let the light come through the inner areas as well. So we will say that almost 80% of the building is illuminated by daylight. You can see a picture of the operating theaters with the windows that can be opened to let the patient see the outside and the views if it's required. This is an example of the ICU unit. Now the blinds are closed, but they might also receive direct daylight if they want to. And you may see at the right the glass partition walls in the clinic area. Now I will present 10 laps of the construction of the building. Okay, thank you very much. 谢谢。
Okay, thank you, Francisco. It's a very compact and complex project that create a very comfortable and efficient space for patients. I hope we can have more this kind of buildings, this kind of hospitals in China. Thank you. So the next one, let's welcome Mr. Brandon McFarlane. Hello.
Hello.
Brandon.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes.
Great.
Welcome.
Super. Well, thank you for inviting us. Thank you to the YUANYE Awards. We're pleasure to present two projects. Principally, one of the projects that we will present today is called the Salle Playol project near Paris. Which is where I'm calling from. Our office is, of course, here in France. And as soon as I get the image, you can see it. Everyone can see? Yeah?
Yes, we can see it.
Great. Okay. So this is the name of the project. It's called the Salle Playol, Paris. I don't know if any of you know that in France years ago there was a piano that was became quite famous called the Playol piano, which this play area is named after in the Saint-Denis area. And the Saint-Denis area is an area just north of Paris. It's an area where the future Olympic Games of 2024 will be held. It's a very industrial area, very rundown area today. A lot of housing in this area, but also a lot of old factories and a big sort of empty industrial sites. One of the interesting aspects of the site is that it was a factory or a very big thermal electricity generating plant for Paris's underground train lines, the metro, in the 1920s, 30s, right through to I think around about the 50s. And in the 60s and 70s, this site really became abandoned and run down. In the 80s, a very famous film director, Luc Besson, invested and took over a factory very near to the site, which will become the future center of the Olympic Games, the gastronomy area. And we're about 300 meters from that site. And what you're looking at in this image, essentially, is a stepped building, which was one of the buildings associated with the electricity production, had huge sort of porcelain glass transformers that helped in the generation of this electricity, but they had to be actually repaired and looked after and cleaned. And so this building, this unusual sort of stepped building from the 1930s, which really became known as the Cathedral, a fantastic volume, one single volume of concrete. And inside, these big doors rolled open, and essentially these transformers were brought inside to be cleaned. Now this is kind of part of, and these things.
Sorry to interrupt you. Is your slide moving, or you keep on one slide?
I'm keeping on one slide, no problem.
And
would you
make it full screen?
I'm sorry?
Would you make it a full screen?
Yes. Is it another full screen for the moment? Okay, no problem.
Yeah. On the bottom right hand, there's a button. You can make it full screen. On the bottom. Yes.
Perfect. Is that okay? Okay,
yeah.
Good.
Perfect.
Okay, great. All right. So anyway, the notion is that the rest of the space became workshops, and there was a small caretaker's house. There was a competition recently for a group called the C40 competitions, which are a series of international competitions based on the idea of bringing together projects from around the world that could create new prototypes for, in a sense, meeting carbon zero and trying to reduce climate emitting gases, and essentially meet a kind of a climate zero future. So I'll read a little bit of the text that gives you an idea about the project. The Energy Plug project involves a zero carbon retrofit and extension of a disused industrial structure covering 15,000 square feet. Originally built in the 1930s, located in the suburban town of Saint-Denis next to the Paris 2004 Olympic Games. The building will generate its own renewable energy, becoming entirely self-sufficient and thus carbon neutral. Soil excavated from the Grand Paris Express site will be used in the construction process. A new modular structure known as the Energy Plug, entirely made of wood, will harness solar power and enable a system of vertical greenhouses with a double function for growing food and providing passive climate control. Now, essentially, the part that we build, or in a sense are in the process of trying to build, is this element here, which is called the Energy Plug, which we named as the Energy Plug, which is made up of a series of singular square pieces, which essentially can be built up as one element or a series of smaller elements, can be constructed or deconstructed. The scheme makes use of hybrid photovoltaic and thermal solar cells, rainwater recuperation, zinc air batteries for energy storage. The project will stimulate ecological innovation by hosting scientific workshops, providing space for clean energy startup firms. So I'll go on a little bit to images. So here you have an idea of the roof, which is from the solar roof down, you go through the wall and to the different pieces, you get some sort of an idea of the concrete structure that exists. A restaurant backed by social reintegration initiative will provide a welcoming meeting place. This is one of what we're calling the energy pixel, which is essentially kind of a solar cell, a wooden wall, which is filled with dirt recuperated from Paris's new Grand Paris Express, which is underground, above ground expressway, and the green growing wall. The clients for the building are EDF, a French electric utility company, and RAM. The Energy Plug was a winning project in the C40 competitions, in which 9 cities across the globe had identified a total of 49 underutilized sites designated for ecologically orientated redevelopment. Here you get a little bit of an idea. I'm going to just take you around the project. The solar roof. The wood is essentially two kinds of things, but essentially fabricated out of a product called Kerto, which is a kind of a development on a much more kind of a higher tech development in wood in Europe, on from what used to be kind of layers of wood, much thicker. Now we're down to dimensions which are extremely interesting. Within it, of course, I said there was a series of offices, spaces, kind of cultural spaces, startups, companies of startups which are invested in the project. In the base is a cafe, restaurant. We have here a kind of a very big space, which is meant to be open for community sports facility, but also could be invested by different groups, artists, etc. over time. This gives you some sort of idea of the section. So here we have the cathedral space. Here we have the growing wall in the back, which we're developing with one of France's more exciting vertical urban agricultural groups. The series of spaces in through section. We move around now on a model. You have a little bit of an idea around the project as we move towards the back. This is the kind of south-facing wall, which in one way we see, as I said, as a kind of prototype. A prototype for actually any disused industrial building in the world. Again, it's something which can accommodate to any site. So the project is not a singular project. It's a project which actually proposes a future which we can take back parts of the cities which have been abandoned, disused, but we're no longer in the interest of demolishing these kinds of structures, what we'd be interested in doing is actually taking them back and using them, and in a way creating a kind of win-win situation out of them. The wall generates so much thermal mass that we can actually inject in this project into the old concrete structure what we need climatically. And what was interesting about this was to actually get rid of thermal layers, put back inside the old structure in order for them to bring them up to kind of livable, workable spaces. We can now work with the concrete wall as a singular body, and take from this vertical growing wall two things. One is obviously food, but the other is actually creating a kind of win-win situation for the old factory space, which is taken back. Then here, in the last image of Sao Paulo, you have a little bit of an idea of kind of somehow the importance of the project. It's very much about bringing into the area. The Olympic Games may bring sports and new housing to the area, but a project like this, which is right next to the Olympic Games, will have a huge benefit to the local community, and as a lasting project, not just during the Games, but also afterwards. So another project that I just wanted to end on, which we're quite proud of because it's our first project in China, so that's really the reason that I wanted to show it. It's a very different kind of project, obviously. It's for a very big shop for a group called Urban Revivo. And it's a two-story space, essentially made out of stainless steel, digitally cut plaster, walls, glass, and wood. So if we go around that rather quickly, and then I'll finish there. This project is, in a sense, created by a series of walls, which are a volumetric mass into which the project is cut. On the ground floor, you have some sort of idea as you go up from the ground floor. The furniture is designed by us. In the back, you have a series of changing rooms, staircase, level change. The building is a building from the early 80s, but in a sense, we wanted to treat it as a kind of a found object. These are just different views around. As you come up the two major fronting stairs, you come up into a kind of a second layer. And so this layering system is both a presenter of the different aspects of the brand, as well as a series of, as I said, changing rooms, as well as a series of alcoves in which to show accessories. And another quick couple of views around the space. This opened about 3 months ago in Shanghai. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Brandon. Okay, so the next one will be Benjamin Iborra from Masura office.
Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening.
I cannot see you.
Yeah. Can you see me now?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, so I believe you can share. You were sharing your screen for the project.
Sorry.
Okay, I thought that because I had some problems sharing my screen, and I thought you were going to show the project in your screen.
Let me try. I think I have. Hold on. One minute.
Yeah, it's fine.
Do you see my screen?
It's loading. Yeah, perfect. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, hi everyone. Yeah. Thank you for inviting Mesura to this talk. It's an honor to be here. I'm going to be speaking on behalf of the name of Mesura. I am one of the partners. So, if you please go to the next slide. Yeah, this is our team. This is myself at the left hand of the image. And this is just part of the team that we're showing here, and it's in the project that we are going to explain today. So if you go to next, please. Yeah, just for you to know, we like to explain Mesura from our culture, our purpose, and our values. But for today's quick talk about our project Casa Ter, we just wanted to point out our value of sense of place, which means our idea of before starting designing, we really want to look where we are designing, what's the culture, how do the people live, and how it's been being constructed during many centuries. Next, please. So we call this little explanation of the Casa Ter house the Genius Loci Ceramico, which, Genius Loci, it's a Roman word which means the protector spirit of the place, and which many other architects took this concept into an architecture a way of doing, and it talks about respect and to do a deep study of where are you constructing. Next, please. And of course, ceramic. Ceramic, it's like a constructing methodology that's being used and going to be used in the whole world. But we believe that in every local place, it's being used in many ways and in a unique way. So next. So in La Bisbal, where we have this project, it's a city that it's been traditionally using ceramic in many ways, not only in terms of construction, but also in terms of little elements for the house and whatever. And this red spot is where our house is located. It's in the Bajan Burda. Yeah, it's next to a village, but it's in the outsides of the village, so you can go walking to this village, Rupia, which is the typical village of the area. And if you go to next, you see that the house, that is that white thing that you see in the middle. The house is in the middle of this forested area next to the village. So basically, the project follows studies four main things of the site. One is the watching the neighbors, which we have just a few neighbors, just a few houses. Second point would be studying deeply the topography. Third one, the solar conditions that we have, and fourth one, the sun and the views that are very complex in this site. And if you go to next image, just the first sketches and first intentions of how to approach this idea of the Genius Loci in our project, and thinking of local ways of construction with this ceramic, such as what we call Catalan bolt, is this bolt with ceramic. And in this diagram, we see the house itself. It's an L-shaped house which divides perfectly the what we call the public areas in terms of the house, and the more private rooms that we have. And then in the middle of these two ways of living in the house, we have a straight tongue that goes all along the side, and then turns into a swimming pool, and in the other side turns to a living space in the south part of the house. So we have four ways of we went quite radical in terms of how to apply the ceramic into the house, and we wanted the ceramic to solve all the parts of the house, the structure and the finishes. So we have four ways of using the ceramic in the local way. One would be having this wall structure, brick walls. Secondly, would be like this bolted ceramic in the first slab. Third would be in the first floor. We have the Catalan bolt for the master bedroom, and the fourth application will be the pavement and the finishes of the house. Here you go. Yeah. So yeah, you go to next one. If we go specifically to what is the brick, we see this detail of the house where we have these two walls. First one is a structure. The second one is just like a scheme for protection, and where it combines the brick with this horizontal ceramic that is doing a few things. No, and first thing is like it's giving shade to the facade. Because in terms of in terms of sustainability, this house, obviously the first main concept of sustainability is working with local materials. But the second approach of sustainability is to understand the climate and to do what we call passive architecture solutions, such as putting in the facade these horizontal lines, and it's giving shade to the facade so it doesn't heat too much, and it also is giving to the image of the house a lot of horizontality so that the house feels settled down in the place. Yeah, here you see the application of this brick wall in the left hand, and in the right hand you see the final image of these horizontal ceramic lines, and at some point the walls extend the house and interact with the landscape just to feel the house more settled. And also limiting spaces. Yeah, in terms of the slab, you can go to the next one. We have like different directions depending on how the wall is working. Always like we were working in a model of 6x6, so that we don't have like big structure elements or like normal prefabricated elements. And here we see the combination of these little bolts and then a plain ceramic elements in this tongue that I was talking about that connects the south and the north of the house. Yeah, here we see all the combination of the ceramics. Here the left hand is like where we were constructing it, but at the right hand we have a final image where we see that the ceramic is like the main protagonist element of the house in many ways that's being used. You go to the next one. And then we have the Catalan bolt, which is like a classical element that we wanted to reinvent and give like a new shape that is adapting to our project, but it's constructed in a traditional way, and that gives a lot of local personality to this space. We go to next. Yeah, it's this element here made with this local classical ceramic way in different layers. And that gives this image in the right hand, also working with this white atmosphere in there, which is very Mediterranean. Go to the next one. And last but not least, the toa is this ceramic piece in the pavement. Here you see more detailed layout of how the house is working and how this ceramic element is going through the house and extends in this tongue to the house, as we see in this swimming pool, with a very local materiality. So it doesn't feel like a very modern swimming pool in the middle of the countryside. And those are like final images of the house. And I don't know if you can share a video that because I think it is very interesting to see the video, see the final images of all this process and concept.
Let me see the video.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you very much. Okay, so thank you very much. Thank you again for inviting us. It's been a pleasure, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you for your wonderful work. So I stop my sharing screen and let's move on to welcome next keynote speaker, Fabian Tan from Fabian Tan Architect.
Hi,
welcome.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just gonna share my screen. Oh, can you guys see my screen?
Yes,
hello?
Perfect.
Okay. Hi, thank you. First of all, thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure to be among this great seminar today. And first, I'll introduce myself. My name is Fabian Tan. Architects, we are a small architectural studio in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. And we've been practicing for about 9 to 10 years. And we specialize in unique residential projects. So the house that we're going to talk about today is going to be called Billboard House. So from we always say how we're going to approach the start of the project. So this is the plan of the original project. I mean, the original house that it was before. It's basically a 2-story terrace house, and it's in a corner lot. And the first observation that I found out is that the living rooms, the dining rooms, and the kitchen is in kind of like in an awkward manner. And the floor print of the actual house is quite fat. So in the middle of the house, probably you won't get as much light and ventilation. The second observation also is probably the angled boundary line, as you can see here, that tapers towards the below. And that also gives like some hint or an observation to how we approach the house, because I always feel like whenever I approach a house and the design, we don't try to impose any design towards it. We usually let the site inform us of what it is that it wants to do. So if you go up to the first floor of the original house, it is also, it consists of bedrooms and study rooms, but it's kind of like in a very fat kind of manner. As you can see from the original house, it's like one level on the ground floor and it's another level on the first floor, and there's no real interaction between the floors. So from these observations, I've come up with the design approach, and the design approach is to somehow try and separate or disconnect the building into 2 parts. One which is the bottom part here, and the one at the top part here. So we tried to detach the building and also create a kind of a pavilion, a living space pavilion, which is the living, dining, and the kitchen that faces towards the garden. And when the line of the pavilion is in the same line as the skewed boundary, I found out that you create little spaces where light and ventilation can actually go through to perhaps make the house more lighted, more naturally balanced in terms of light and ventilation. And this is the first floor, and bedrooms are more or less maintained because of probably budget constraints. So the only part that we've changed is the pavilion portion. So the pavilion portion, which is here, and the bedrooms are left unchanged. So the pavilion also has a series of levels here, which is the study room and the balcony area, which I'll explain to later. So the pavilion has a disconnect, as you can see from this plan view right here. Also, there's also a small balcony area that extends towards here, and it also becomes like a small little patio lounge. This is the house from the side of the with the patio lounge here, as you can see. And a view from the other side. So this is the main entrance area walking into the house. As you can see, there is a strong linear extension that goes right up to the back, so you can actually open up the house and you can have light and ventilation through. On the right hand side is a small triangular piece that's created from the pavilion following the angle of the boundary line. And on the left, this is a studio. So as we turn around the corner, as you can see from the entrance area, that it disconnects into this pavilion here. So this pavilion is made out of a series of platforms. And one platform, which is a study room, which is on the lower side, and the balcony, which is on the higher side. This gives an illusion of an expansion of the space through different viewpoints. This is the ground floor with the living spaces with the large timber doors at the end of the space that opens out and extends out into the garden to bring that view into the garden or to expand the space into the garden. This is the view from outside looking in, and the two large timber doors, which is made out of like black, which made out of timber, pine timber panels, which is stained black, and also the handles are designed in such a way that they are made into locking mechanisms as well to make sure that the large timber doors do not move. This is a view of the inside, some more, with the study room at the first floor. And if you can see, it's a living and dining, and then towards the back side is the kitchen that comes out to a lounge area. It's a view of the side of the timber door and the scale, you can see. So this is the view on the other side, the deck area, which living spaces open up to the garden, and it makes, to me, it makes more sense and balance to align the building together with the boundary line. And that is the view from the lounge area, the patio, where the clients and their family usually sit out here during the evenings and hang out and look at admire their own building and garden. And then now we're taking some steps up to the first floor. So from here you can see there is quite a distinction between the old house, which is in white, and the concreteness of the pavilion, which is in gray. So in terms of why, people have always often asked why do I choose a vaulted form or an arch form? My design strategy coming into this was to expand the space as much as I can to give the illusion that it is as big as possible. So I found out that maybe the only way I could achieve that is to have the arch shape, which has no distinction between wall and ceiling. So the wall becomes the ceiling, and then it comes down to become the wall again. So it gives an illusion that there is no separation between the elements. Also, the materiality that I chose for the concrete also enhances that space where the ground floor is made out of the concrete floor, and also the fair face concrete walls and bolt. And there's also probably a reason why I made this inverted arch window, which the clients dub as a smiley window, for the fact that if you look from the last image here, you can see that there's a certain sense of continuity. So that brings your eye to kind of like a natural S shape, as you would say, towards the front of the building. And then to the left-hand side is the kid's bedroom, which overlooks the son's bedroom, which overlooks the pavilion, and he's probably got the best view of the house. And then we'll take a corridor that goes into the master bedroom. And from the master bedroom, you take a series of steps from the master bedroom and you appear into the vaulted arch. So after post-analyzing the design, I realized that sometimes inspirations and concepts come unconsciously or subconsciously, because I think I recently visited, I went to visit the Mulu Caves in Sarawak, Malaysia, which is one of the largest caves in Southeast Asia, and was very fascinated by its structure, and perhaps it may have influenced the way I've designed the space. Sometimes these things do come to you unconsciously, but they are a source of inspiration, and it's always good to observe and to keep an open mind. And so I will play you a very short video, a silent video, because I don't think you can play the sounds from here. So I will just... Okay, lastly, I would like to say stay safe, everyone, and as punny as this might seem, I hope we see the light at the end of the tunnel. And thank you, Shashani.
Okay, thank you, Fabia. It's an amazing project. So basically, we finished all the presentations today. So for the third group, maybe we can welcome Mr. Zhou Zhendong to give some comment or questions to our keynote speakers. Yeah, I already saw some questions from Mr. Zhou Zhendong. So the question to Fabia. For your project, you deal with old and new. For the public space, you use exposed concrete. And the living room is very white, clean color. How could you manage and make connection between these two? The very sort of raw material and white, cleanish color between these two. Fabia, this is the question Mr. Zhou Zhendong want to ask you.
Actually, what do you mean? As in, like, the contrast between the white and the concrete, or?
Yes, your living room and your the public space.
Yeah, I think the whiteness. I think I wanted to make the pavilion, the concrete pavilion, like really an extension of the space, and I wanted to keep the rest of the house very simple. And if you can see from the overall view, the plan view where you saw from the top, the house next door is quite similar to the house design, and I didn't change the roof tiles at all. So the addition of the pavilion, I wanted to make it very apparent, very different from the actual house itself, to give that kind of contrast, very stark contrast that you would say, like it's an extension, like it's maybe like a kind of like a virus attached, to. no pun intended, but yeah, a virus attached to its host, like which is very distinct. Yes.
I have actually a personal question. For the arch, it's very clean and pure shape. How could you manage the like thermal insulation? Is there any consideration for the environmental protection?
Yeah, I because the orientation of the actual building, it's facing north, so half of the roof will actually get part of the sun, and the other half will be cooled down on the other side of the day. So I think if the orientation was any different, it would have been probably be a different approach. And also the clients were very, very open to this idea of the concrete block house. So it does get sometimes warm, but on an overall, because the ceiling height is so tall, the air actually gets ventilation. If the structure was probably shorter, as in like, if it was shorter, then the heat from the concrete will go through the space. But all in all, no complaints from the clients so far, and it seems to be okay.
Yeah, perfect. It's like a museum. It's very nice.
Thank you.
Mr. Zhou Zhendong also have a question to, let me see, the Cordova Hospital, Mr. Francisco. He wondering, you have different metal facade. You deal with different transparency. How could you manage the sunshine problem? How could you think about this metal facade interact with environment surrounding? It seems the metal facade is very enclosed environment. It's very enclosed building, and how to interact with surrounding environment. This is the question to Francisco.
Okay. Well, here we deal with environment with two elements. The facade is made out of two layers. So the first one is only for thermal isolation, which is the internal panel made out of aluminum, and it's a sandwich panel. But in the second layer, what we did is we parameterize this. We use mathematical models with Grasshopper and other computer systems that combining these two parameters, which one first of was privacy. Sometimes we need different privacy inside of the building, but the most important one was the algorithm for the sun intake during the year. So combining these different opacity triangles, the computer model different patterns depending on the solar intake. So the outside layer allowed us to protect from the sunlight during the whole year, or in the areas more affected by the sunlight. And the other algorithm was based on the privacy. So basically, it was with different concentration in the parts where we have more sun take, the opacity of these triangles is more recurrent. So, and when we, for example, in our face of in the north facade, the transparency of the triangles is more common. So it seems very simple, but it's only about algorithm.
Mm-hmm. So the algorithm consider of sunlight, consider about the thermal, acoustic, so everything together and make a efficient solution. I think that's the answer to Mr. Zhou Zhendong. Since we still have some time, maybe we can still invite Lucy and Mino join together to have some comment to our last group presentations. Mino, still there?
Yes. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I think our whole really nice project. I would like maybe to make a question to Mesura of Casater. Is a really clear intervention between the site, the history of a place, and also this ceramic history, and also really well define the space around the function of the day and the night and the private and the public into the house. And it's helping me to arrive to the point almost like the Vitruvian way of thinking through the finitas, utilitas, and the venustas. There is the strength, the utility, and the beauty. And my question goes to these three elements that I think it's like centuries ago was born this typology of thinking, and I would like to know how you guys think about this topic will change into our present moment and also in the future.
Sorry, sir. Mr. Ibolas from Mesura has another important meeting. He's not here.
I'm sorry, I didn't know that. So, okay. So maybe let me see. Another question can go to maybe the McFarlane. And it is a really interesting project between the existing building and the new intervention. And here the intervention that...
Because it has this federating possibility. We can add more or take less off. And we can obviously deconstruct the whole building and reuse the materials. And that's very much the kind of visions that we're seeing now. In architecture in Europe, we're also trying to imagine all of these projects as being deconstructible and reusable. And again, I think these are very, very interesting. It's fundamental in architecture that we start working with these kinds of issues.
Fantastic, great. Yeah, my question goes to technical question because the project is very clear. So there is no question, you know.
I take that as a great compliment. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks to you. So I don't know if there is more time speaking about other projects, and or we go on. Just tell me.
I have a question.
Please, Lucy.
Oh, okay. Okay. I have a question for the Francisco about the hospital. And the project has constantly changed people's general stereotype of the hospital. Usually in China, the hospital is quiet, and mostly it's white color and light green. This kind of very quiet color. And but these buildings you are doing, the buildings is quite modern, and use the purported metal plates. This is also very new materials. I want to know that use this kind of new materials and the main the different facade is fresh, but also face the challenge because people's in mind already have the hospital's images in general. So, in China, many projects need buy-in, so you take the risk. I want to know that, do you have any problems to sell the ideas during this whole process about your hospital?
Okay, thank you. That's a very good question. Well, we strongly believe in Enero that hospitals, we strongly believe that architecture has the power to create emotions. And these emotions had been studied since the 70s. and we can use them in hospitals. So when we, for example, wayfinding in the hospitals are very important because normally they are designed for technical or technology, but it's very often you don't find any clue for social or to let the people have good feelings and improve their health within these buildings. So we strongly believe that using architectures such as, for example, the tree-shaped pillars gives the building an organic feeling that make it more welcoming. The use of friendly materials, organic materials, recycled materials, it reinforces this feeling also. And for example, to deal with dementia, especially in the elderly people or chronic patients, we have to provide them with a circadian rhythm, which means that we might make them perceive the direct sunlight or the direct daylight because they can organize the biorhythm towards it. So these elements like daylight, organic materials, even social spaces. In hospitals, it's very uncommon to find places where you can modulate your social interacting with others. Normally, you have huge spaces for waiting areas, for example, and people cannot modulate their privacy. Or even in their rooms where they have to share the space with another patient. So we think that we can provide hospitals with these characteristics to help them recover more easily and in a better mood. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And if we still have a little time, I would like to have a question to the Jacob from Paris.
Yes, please.
Yeah, okay. A synergy you mentioned as a plugin into that old buildings that are quite interesting. And this kind of project more and more also in China, because many, industry area come into the renovation, stage. And because the urbanizations in China is going very fast. My question is that, the old and the new, integrate each other has many ways. One way is a contrast, something like, okay, that is old, this is new. Another one is find the common elements and put together by a harmony ways and to match each other. And from your perspective, what kind of the, what's the best way to integrate the old and the modern from your perspective?
Is this, sorry, who was the question addressed to?
Yeah, my question is that, there's many ways to put the different age, the buildings, the modern and, the traditional, and also some old, different ways. Yeah, one way is that find their common elements and put them together and it looks like the family is something with different generation. Huh? This is one way. Another way is that I want it to be the totally different. This is new and that is the old. So the contrast way. So from your perspectives, what's the best way to do this kind of project?
It's a really good question. Yeah. This is a question to us, yeah or not? You're asking us.
To you. Yeah, to
sorry.
To the Jacob Paris.
No. Thank you, McFarlane. No, I think it's a really good. It's an excellent question. It's the only way. The way of answering it is that right now in history, it seems interesting for our office to work with the concrete and the wood because the wood has such a powerful, as I said, it's the it's the best way of getting the carbon footprint down in terms of calculations. And because wood, of course, trees absorb one of the best absorbers of carbon in the atmosphere. So that's why the wood is very interesting. Not only interesting, it's really one of the best elements to work with to absorb that carbon down and get the calculations down. So that's why in this project we worked with the wood. It happened to be that, so historically, it happened to be that in a sense what's really great about that is that you have the Industrial Revolution on the one hand, concrete, industrial, old factory, which I know in China you have a huge body of this kind of material. And then what happens is that, of course, we're under an environmental revolution in the world right now. Wood, for the moment, is still looking like one of the most interesting materials, although it's undergoing a lot of resource pressure right now because a lot of architects are wanting to work with it, etc. And the building industry is using it more and more. But still, so historically, that's why we came up with our choice. In a sense, it wasn't for another reason, but of course, the contrast between wood and concrete was all about the two revolutions. One's industrial, and the other is post-industrial. It's an environmental revolution. So it's really what it represents, and why technically it sort of got us to that family, as you say. I don't know if it's the best way. I know right now, at this point in history, it's the best way. But I think there's many different ways. I think if I was taking a broader vision of the whole thing and not aware of why the environmental revolution is so important and why we should be working this way right now, I would say there's other ways. It doesn't have to be wood. It could be many different materials. It could also be, why not, be even more radical and, let's say, build it out of a new kind of concrete. So you have the old concrete and a kind of radically new concrete. So it doesn't mean that to change the material is the right way. I think it's very difficult. I wouldn't go as far as to say I knew the right way of doing it. I think there's many different ways of doing it. But I think the right way in this point in history was to work with the wood. But I think it's a really great question. I would say one of the ways, it's not just wood, but if I had more time to show you the project, I would show you how it's a history of geometry, and it's a history of the geometry of the industrial building in a way giving birth, like a child, to this pixel, this cubicle volume. So the geometry is also a way in which we make a relation between the historical piece and the new piece. I think geometry has a huge role to play there as well. It's another way, it's an aspect to the answer to your question.
Yes, it's very interesting, and this is a big topic, and we can further talking later. I think this, new and old, it's like the rings of the trees, and each year they have something different from each other and by the condition of that year. So this is very interesting and also very, useful in the, developing of the urban planning. So we are doing many innovation in the old town. So this is the questions.
I think China has a huge body of material there, and there is a fantastic chance to use some of these kinds of ideas there, and in a very beneficial way for China.
Right, exactly. That's a big topic, and we can talk later. And thank you very much. And I have the last questions to Benjamin about the Keystone house.
Not here. Benjamin, the name is not here.
Oh, not here, living. All right. Oh, okay. Then I that's okay, and I could talk later. And that's all. 5 minutes.
We have Fabian Tan. We have Fabian Tan. If there is any interactive talk with Mr. Fabian Tan, that we could go on. If there isn't any, we stop here.
Okay. My question is that, that house is quite, usually the environment is very good. the typical way is that quite open because make the big glasses and the indoor and outdoor get integration and the connection and the link. That's the way because that's absorbed invited the good scenery inside. That's usually way. But these buildings, make the stone, you will see very closed. And I don't know if because of the climate there, that's the reason or we just want to, make the natural friendly, put some natural stone. Natural, the material is local, right? So the natural stone put into the forest. That's also a way to be friendly to the environment. So I want to know the questions. Usually way is quite open, the glasses, the big glasses, huge, and invited a good view into the house. That's usually the house in the good environment. Usually the ways.
Sorry, what was your question? Your question is why I used
I didn't ask this question. Yeah, I asked the previous Benjamin's house questions.
Oh,
and
okay.
That one. Yeah, because usually it's over. But for you also have a questions. Is that you are the townhouse at the end of the corner of that townhouse, right? And the townhouse is quite a traditional way, slope, the roof and and suddenly totally different style. What's in your mind initially about this idea? Why you don't want to follow, the townhouse usually, the one by one, they are the same in the row. And this is why you made a totally different thing, but it's good. I really like it. But why you want to make a totally different things, but not find something match with others? Yeah. Okay.
Of course. I chose something very different because I wanted the intention of the form to follow that. Because if you see throughout history and throughout architecture, there are also modern solutions towards retrofitting or traditional architecture to mix with modern architecture. So obviously I tried to contrast this through the use of concrete, and I wanted to create that kind of monochrome look to it. So I could just go with trying to fit it to the same architectural language as before, but I guess it was a response to trying to come up with a certain idea that was only created for the site. So there are obviously different solutions to different architectural, but my intervention was probably influenced by a range of thinking that is suited to the specific site, the specificity of the site itself.
Okay. So this thought is from you or from your client? About
no. Of course, my clients were very shocked when I actually presented the scheme to them. Of course, they were not. They were like, "What's this?" That kind of thing. But I have probably a way of influencing my clients to do what. And also I guess in a way, I have very strong intentions or reasoning behind what I do. I don't do them for style's sake or for trying to create an impact. It just seemed natural that it was an R shape because my intention was to expand the pavilion as much as I can, and hence I wanted to have no delineation between floor and ceiling, you see, and also floor, ceiling, and wall. So floor, wall, and ceiling. So I didn't want to have that. I wanted it to have a very monochrome kind of look to it. Yeah.
Okay. So you convinced your client to accept this idea.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you, Lucy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lucy. I think this is going to be the last question for today. This amazing afternoon, we are sharing, we look at 12 different presenters, 12 different ideas across the entire world. I think the benefit for the online platform for nowadays knowledge exchange. Through the presentation, we can also read lots of common interests, common solutions for different architects working in different conditions. We also, all of us need to deal with old and new, need to deal with local tradition and also the global modernity. We also need to facing to the environmental threat. We need to deal with the carbon free. We need to find a new way for timber construction, for example. I think it's a great opportunity for us to time to time share our ideas and different approaches. I really need to say thank you to YUANYE organizer. They organized this fantastic event to know all of you guys, and also need to thank to Lucy Liu, Mino, and Mr. Zhou Zhendong. Thank you for all of your amazing comment. So now it's time to hand over to our organizer, Mr. Tao. Yeah. Cannot hear you.
Cannot hear.
Yeah. No, it's okay.
Yeah, it's okay. Still cannot hear.
No. The microphone has some problem.
好，谢谢大家。感谢今天分享的12位设计师。在这个阴雨绵绵的北京的下午，然后呢，大家用一个下午来听各位的精彩分享。这里的话，我代表组委会特别感谢今天作为主持人的史阳老师，还有 Lucy， 还有 Mino， 还有周正东老师。你们4的精彩的互动以及点评，为我们今天的分享会带来了特别好的一个呼应。然后，作为YUANYE杯组委会来说，会一直陆续的把这样的分享会举办下去。我们将在6月的中旬，在北京的河里西地进行一场线下的一个分享会，以及7月的中旬还将进行一场线上的一个精彩分享，也欢迎广大设计师报名参与。YUANYE杯国际竞赛走到了今年已经是第12届，并且已于5月18号开始了专业奖的申报，欢迎大家加入到这个竞赛中来。刚才分享的 Lucy 刘以及 Mino 都曾经是我们YUANYE杯第11届大赛的一个获奖者。我们今后的话也将对这些获奖者进行更多的一个推广和报道，以及我们更加愿意搭建这样的一个平台，把真正国际化的一些多元的一些建筑作品以及好的设计作品引入到中国来，为我们431所参赛的高校的学子以及青年的建筑师，给他们带来一些不一样多元化的一些声音。上一届的分享会，我们既有像武崇义那样的禅师级的非常非常有禅意的建筑师，同时也有做60平米体量的一个建筑体量的设计机构。所以在YUANYE杯的平台，它的国际化以及多元性是我们的一个重要的方向。在这个平台上，无关乎名声声望以及 成立的年头，我们最希望的就是把各国的多元的元素引入到中国来，让大家能够看到更多更好的优秀的设计作品。所以大家陆续的关注原野杯，关注国际设计师公众号。好的，谢谢大家。
Thank you for watching again this episode of Architectural Share Meeting. We will hold another share meeting in July, and also so please pay close attention to our platforms because the 12th YUANYE Awards has started now. So we highly welcome those good architects to bring into their ideas, their design works for our platform and participate in YUANYE Award. And we also have other activities like we plan to hold the Beijing Design Week in late September, and all the others forums. Please pay attention to our platforms again. And we want to express our thankfulness to our host today, Mr. Shi Yang, and also the three commentators, Lucy Liu, Mino Kajiola, and Mr. Zhou Zhendong, and all the others 13 architects who participated in the sharing meeting today. We thank you all. And we would like to see you again in the next fair meeting in July. Thanks all. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye, everyone. Have a good day.
Good day.